Sadly, this is a forsaken generation. Hear this well, we're not going away. Eyes are opening to the truth. We grow stronger in number as a united force every day. Babies are dying, parents left crying, told that SIDS or coincidence disorder are to blame, parents forced to live with the pain and shame. The once bright smiling faces full of wonder turned vacant stares, families shattered while they also endured the public glares. You're wiping out future generations for your own selfish gain as we form this revolution for liberation and change. We will keep speaking louder and louder. We will not be silenced until there's a shift in power. So stand up, speak out, be brave, be the voice of the voiceless. Too many forsaken lay in their graves. Welcome to Forsaken Generation.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Forsaken Generation Radio Show. I am your host, Lynette Barron, and I am joined by my best buddy and sidekick on the show, Anu Vaidya. Good morning, Anu.
Good morning.
Well, it looks like you were really busy this past week, my friend. I have been freaking just bursting at the seams to talk to you about this past week.
This last week was just, it was crazy. I don't know. I don't even know how I got to the other side of this week. To be honest, it just felt like every day something was changing for the rest of the week. But yeah, it was a pretty intense week, and had some pretty interesting experiences. That's for sure.
Oh my goodness, it seems like it. I know we had, I guess, around over 2,000 people show up in Washington, and then another 200 to 300 show up in Colorado the very same day. So how amazing is that?
It's pretty amazing. I mean, here's the thing. It's there were so many people there. You know, I haven't seen a turnout like that pretty much ever. So that's pretty amazing. And it was a really great crowd. And, you know, we had some amazing speakers. And I think, you know, the thing that happened in Seattle was amazing, but, you know, they also had a great meetup in Colorado. It's good to see that people are finally coming out to see these things.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I agree. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. When I saw what the numbers were, and I saw the people out there inside the building and on the steps, it's like, oh my goodness, yes. You and I talked about such a thing, and even massive scale for a long time now. So it was just a beautiful thing to be able to witness, and just made me so excited. So how did everything go out there? I know. I think I saw you on somebody else's stream. And my daughter was laughing because I know you by the back of your head. And she was laughing because she said, like, Mom, your back app, because you know Anu by the back of his head.
Right. Yeah. I was there primarily to film the rally. So I wasn't involved a lot in, you know, like when people were going live and things of that nature. But what I did, you know, it was great because it was a great experience, honestly, for me, because I got to listen in on conversations and see how people strategize in these situations and what the dynamic of something like that is. So it was one of the first times I actually got to be in one of these and listen to these hearings, and it was an interesting experience because and to be, you know, not to be a Debbie Downer of any sort, but it honestly felt like it was all done just for show, to be perfectly honest. It felt so contrived that, you know, they were having this hearing as if they actually wanted to have a hearing, because the panel that they had put together, all like each and every single one of them pretty much said the same thing. And
right.
when I say they said the same thing, I don't mean that they roundabout said the same thing. No, I mean, like, they were practically using the same language. And so, you know, the general rhetoric, the mantras, and the kind of ticker tape style, you know, like, let's just dole out these sentences that we say every single time, you know, that kind of like robotic like approach. And it's interesting also to me that, you know, during the testimonies of a couple of the panelists that were on their side, you know, for the sides of mandates and you know, scaling back the exemptions, you can see that they're trying so hard to give examples of you know, why it should happen. They always pull out, you know, well, I met this one person that went through this one thing that died from this thing, so therefore everybody should, you know, get the measles vaccine. You know, and it's interesting because they don't see how them doing that is I mean, it's hypocritical for them to accuse our side of providing anecdotal evidence for our, you know, for the premise of our stance, and then to go around and do the same thing, it makes no sense. And some of the numbers they were pulling up, you know, I haven't looked them up specifically, but, you know, people that are much smarter with those things told me that the numbers were completely and utterly bogus, and at certain points they were flat out lying about things. And so they
seem to do that
honestly,
quite a bit.
It felt like a performance.
That's how ACIP feels too, friend. You know, I've got about a little under, well, I guess I got about 2 weeks from today till I leave, or 2 weeks to tomorrow that I leave for ACIP again. And that's exactly how it feels too. It's like a dog and pony show. It's like you'd think that they would have sat in there and rehearsed all of this beforehand or something. It feels so staged. And the blatancy of the things that they say, and how the actual organization of the meeting is, and how you'll vote on something before you'll comment or show reserve. It just makes no sense.
No, it makes no sense at all. It's actually, you know, it makes no sense from our side, but I would have to say from their side, like, if I were to play devil's advocate and kind of assess the situation, not that I would ever do this, but if we were playing like, oh, what's the smartest play to make, or rather, how do we, you know, mitigate the situation that we have, that these people are coming up with these concerns and we don't want them to have a footing, then, you know, that's what you do. Then you put up these kangaroo court style, you know, situations, and these, you know, and honestly, you know, I hate to be the guy that says this, but as much as I think we need to keep being at these things and doing these public hearing type things, and we need to have a presence and show that we were there and have it documented that we said these things, and that it's a, you know, a point of public record. I don't think that any of these things are actually going to go our way, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. I really don't. And that's a personal opinion. I know people are going to be like, well, you're just being negative. These things can happen. Democracy really, really works and stuff like that. But I'll tell you this, being in that room and listening to the way these people conduct these public hearings and how you know, like their side of the panelists, honestly, they could have just, you ever watch Charlie's Angels?
Yes.
Okay, so they literally could have just had that speaker box there, and they could have just played a tape, like, you know what I mean? And everybody could have just been sitting in the public hearing, like, for their side of their panelists, because it's not like their side of the panelists said anything that was different from what has always been said. And it's like, and then some people might say, well, just because just because they say the same thing every time doesn't mean it doesn't make it true. And there's, I get that, right? I get that. But the logic that they're using, we've refuted that logic many a time. And in fact, Tony Bark, Brian Hooker, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., they and James Lyons Weiler, Dr. James Lyons Weiler, they all went in there and they were refuting all those things, but it didn't seem like it mattered to that public hearing. So, my personal take on this is that the whole point of us going to these things and being there is to make sure that it is a point of public record and historical record that we were there saying these things. And and I've gotten to the point, to be honest, where I believe that when the tide turns on this and the zeitgeist finally understands that the majority of the medical community and the legislative community and the government and these regulatory institutions, when it changes, the tide changes, and they realize they did something wrong, I hope that the people who are standing in the way of the truth go to jail. I hope we put them in prison, because what they've done is criminal, and what they keep doing is criminal. I mean, the kind of arguments and the way in which the panelists on their side were actually making their points, had they been in any kind of formal debate tournament, they would not have won, because they didn't provide proof for their evidence, proof for their standpoints at all. They were just saying, this is the case. Yeah. These are the numbers. People are dying. Therefore, we need to mandate vaccines for everyone. It was so
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
It is the same way when you sit and ace at the new.
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's the same exact way. I swear, it's like every one of these hearings, it doesn't matter where you're seeing it come streaming to you from, they're all the same. They all give the same bull crap. They all give the same lies. None of them have any actual real science or anything to actually back up what they're saying. And they deny every bit of anything that is put in their face that makes sense. It is so hard to sit there and watch it. I mean, it's just mind blowing to me. It really is. It's so hard to sit there and watch. I don't care which hearing you're at, which thing you're at. It seems like they all really do go about the same way.
The thing is, Lynette, and I'm sorry if I sound frustrated, but it's honestly, it's to me, and I know I'm going to get some flack for this, but I'm just going to say it. I don't care at this point whether you believe vaccines are the best thing since sliced bread. I don't give a shit. I really don't. Okay? What it really comes down to when you're talking about, the law of the land, whether it is absolutely the best thing that's ever happened or not, the government should not have the right to force me into taking anything, any kind of substance, or any kind of medical procedure. That's just end. That's full stop, period. It doesn't matter.
That's the craziest part. That's how simple it should be. That is how simple it should be. That is like the best point out of any point you could possibly make, and that is how simple it should be in those rooms. But I don't know that it will ever. They can't see it that way. They can't break it down in their minds that way, and I can't for the life of me understand it, because they're also human beings. And I know for them, I can't imagine that they wouldn't want the same choices. So then I think, does the same law not apply to these people? I mean, it's very confusing to see how they would not want choice themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's on these multiple levels. I don't understand how they don't see these things. I really don't. For me, I have a little bit more of a skewed view on the, capabilities of the human condition. But that's just because you see that's just because I look at history and the way we've done things as a species in a different way than most people do. And, I also come from a place of not being a person of faith. But if you put, even for me, when you put all that aside, if you put the human aspect of it aside, all that stuff aside, and you just look at it purely based on logic, law, and ethics, right?
Right.
It, like, that's it. I'm sorry, but no, the government is not allowed. We cannot allow the government to tell us what we need to put in our bodies. I mean, I guarantee you more people would be in an uproar in this country if for some reason they found out, right? If for some reason they found out that Dr. Pepper and Coca-Cola, if you drank those two things together in a 50% mix, and somehow you were it was like a miracle drug that suddenly made you into Captain America, and then you would never get sick ever again, and they tried to mandate that on people, I bet you anything more people would be more pissed off about that than this issue. And they would say, no way,
yeah. I'm
not letting the government make me drink 50% Coca-Cola and 50% Dr. Pepper every single day. Not going to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I honestly believe people in this country would freak the heck out.
You want to know something that's crazy? I was just in the grocery store with my daughters, and I don't try to eavesdrop on people, but you just made me think of this. But dude, I overheard a woman talking about how she was not going to give her children soda anymore. And I'm thinking, well, that's good. And then she says, well, not because it's not healthy or anything, just because I want to be able to have it on backup as a treat. And I'm like, I looked at my daughter and I was
like, have it on what? I'm sorry, say it again.
On backup, like on standby as a treat for her kids, because apparently it makes them listen to her. Yes, and I looked at my daughter Lala and I'm like, did you just hear that woman? And she was like, yep. And I was like, I was about to commend her because she was getting rid of soda, and then when I heard why, it was like, oh, okay, well that's kind of jacked up, It's like, and then but she went into, like, we were just sitting there laughing because she went into how much they love it and how they'll do anything for it and this and that and the other. And I was like, yeah, because it's like liquid crack. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah.
Sugar is more addictive than cocaine by all lab tests. I mean, yeah, they'll do just about anything for it.
And that's the thing, too. It's like even in a country where, like, we drink a lot of things like that, I bet you anything, if you tried to force it down people's throats, people would be pissed off.
Yep.
But for some reason, vaccines, you know what I mean? Some reason, vaccines, no. They're the savior of mankind. Because, Homo sapiens have not existed for as long as they have before vaccines came aboard. We were a dwindling species before vaccines came into the picture. It's just so ridiculous. It's like, no, now we cannot survive without. Don't have these things. We're all gonna die, and then the history is gonna look upon us and be like, look at that pathetic species that didn't take vaccines. Like, really, we're the fastest growing species. We are the virus. Like, if you really think about it, human beings as a species, it pretty much imitates how a virus acts. And it's like,
I never thought about it that way before.
It does. It is. We behave exactly the same way. We reproduce at an exponential rate. We eat, use resources, the natural resource that we are feeding off of at an exponential rate, to where at a certain point it depreciates to a value that it no longer exists. Once it is no longer existing in one part, we move and then we go to another part to take the resources from that part, and we just keep growing. It's the exact same way that a virus acts. So it's like, to act like we are somehow going to just disappear if we stop taking the MMR. Oh my God. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. Well,
and let me just make this clear. I don't make that analogy in a way like, oh, we're just a horrible species, or like in a negative way. We are meant to grow. We are a species that is meant to grow, and I think it's going to be awesome one day. This is the nerdy side of me. When we all get on spaceships and travel the universe, like I think it's going to be awesome. But to think that that vaccines are the one thing that we have to stop and be like, no, everybody needs them, and we have to mandate it. Otherwise, we're all going to die.
And the fact that
it's ridiculous.
You can see every drug out there on the market. You know somebody who's had a reaction to something. I mean, any person you know has had a reaction to something, pretty much. I mean, I don't know anybody, unless they're probably newborn, and if they had a vaccine, they probably had a reaction anyway. But, I mean, seriously, like most people you know have had a reaction to something, but it's just so unbelievable, unfathomable that vaccines could do the same thing as a drug, and they are a drug. And they're way more dangerous than most anything I've ever seen. I mean, it's just mind blowing. It really is mind blowing. I mean, you know, we've heard about Vioxx so many times it's not funny, and the heart attacks and all that kind of stuff, and how that was covered up. And you've got Fen. I mean, I can't even tell you growing up how many commercials since I was a child to now that I've seen that said if you took such and such of a drug and you experienced you or a family member, because they say death. I guess if you're watching the video, you didn't experience death, but you know what I mean. You know, and you got all these lawyers who've been doing this for you know, good Lord, probably since the beginning of law. And I mean, it's just crazy that you can, you know, fathom that penicillin can do this to you, or latex can do this to you, or this can do this to you, but not a vaccine with, good Lord knows how many ingredients, and 90% of those ingredients are probably pretty damn harmful just on their own.
Yep. I mean, it's just so crazy, the logical roadblocks that you hit, right? Because scientists, like, and science, you know, scientific study upon study about how human beings are, how human beings are built, will say that pretty much no thing, right? Pretty much no thing is a one-size-fits-all.
Yeah.
So if pretty much no thing in the world is a one-size-fits-all, then how can something as complex as a vaccine be a one-size-fits-all? Like, I could understand if something really simple was a one-size-fits-all, right?
Right.
But but something as complex as a vaccine, impossible. I'm sorry, but that's impossible that it can be one-size-fits-all.
There are people in the world who are allergic to water. There are people in the world who are allergic to sunshine. There are people in the world who are allergic to dirt. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't get how they think you're not going to, there's no way anybody out here, maybe 1 in a million, that 1 in a million might have that reaction. It is such bullshit. It is literally millions, y'all. I mean, if you're listening to our show for the first time, see, it's hard for me. I don't think about that because I just think about, I just see the world the way I see it, and I just talk in that manner. But if you're listening to our show for the first time, welcome, number one. And, I mean, we're talking right now about Washington, and Colorado also had a nice showing, but Washington had over 2,000 of our anti-vaccine warriors show up, or vaccine risk awareness warriors, or medical health freedom warriors, whatever you prefer to go by out there. But it was just amazing to me that many showed up. And I know that it is discouraging in some ways because a lot of times you can have something like this happen, and then on the opposition, nothing happens, like you were speaking of a minute ago. But on a positive note, Anu, there were so many amazing people there, and just the sheer force of the number, I think, really, really shocked those people inside that building. And you guys got to do something. I'm like, if they had Make-A-Wish for adults, mine would be to meet Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So you guys have already like conquered one of the things on the end of my bucket list there.
I mean, here's the thing: no matter what the people do at these meetings, no matter how much they stalemate and kind of, just it's all for show, we can play the same game, right? We can play the same game on our side. We can come in large numbers, right? We can keep making our testimonies. We can keep giving our testimonies. We can keep being a point of public record that we existed, and then we made the correct scientific and factual and logical standpoints known.
And it was ignored.
History will show that we are right. History will show that we are right. Whether vaccines are as big of a problem or not, right, we will be shown in history as being right, at least to the point of, holy crap, we shouldn't have mandated these things, and holy crap, we probably should have made sure that these things were a lot more safe than they were, because holy shit, we messed up. We will be right. When history shows what happened, we will be right.
And this will be a different thing in history, I think, because even in the past when they documented, like, even the civil rights movement, women were left out. It didn't matter how many women fought. I mean, there were thousands of women, and women were left out of the history books for a lot of it. I mean, you've got Rosa Parks, and you've got a few others who were pretty much, made us pretty much poster people. But other than that, you didn't get to hear about those women activists. You didn't get to hear about the women out there in front line of the trenches. And I think that the times have changed so much because women are documenting all of this now, and a lot of women are. We're begging the men to join us, and that's something I think was very different from the civil rights movement to now. I think that the civil rights movement did have a lot more men who got involved very quickly on, and this has been more of a grassroots movement of mothers. And I think that this time going to ACIP will be a lot bigger of a imprint to them, because we are also showing in force this time, and we are bringing a lot more men with us. And I do think approaching a panel of mostly uppity, older gentlemen, it is nice to be able to come in there with some men on our side, because I do feel like they look at us women, and they're wrong, but I do feel like they look at us and think, y'all need to be at home with the kids. Y'all don't even need to be in this building right now. Like, you get a lot of those kind of feelings and looks in the room. So I think it's going to be amazing just to have a lot more warriors there, and especially to see our men show up and support. And I think it's going to be amazing. And I'm so proud of everybody who showed up. Whoever's listening in today who was able to go to any of the stuff that's been happening, thank you for just putting yourself out there. Thank you for getting out there and doing that. And, I wish I could have been in Washington at this point. I'm still trying to make enough money to stay over an extra day in Atlanta to afford the rally. Because whenever, I guess, ACIP, when I first got my hotel room for ACIP, I had no idea there was a rally the day afterwards. So my hotel ends last day of ACIP. So trying to get me and Lala a way to stick around for the rally they've got going on, because we've got like Ronnie Prine is coming in. I think you probably got to see Ronnie. Oh no, he was in Colorado with the other one. I guess Dale probably got to meet him, but he'll be coming. And he said, I don't know anybody, Lynette, and I don't talk to anybody. And so will you just be there? And I was like, I will do my best to be there. So. I'm trying my hardest to make sure.
Ronnie is such a sweet human being. I've had a few conversations
with him.
I
love him so much. Oh, yes, he is. He is amazing. And his story is just so heartbreaking. And I remember he came on our show, and he told his story last year, and I had to keep muting myself because I could not stop crying. I could not, it was so hard to keep myself composed. And just such a hard story to hear, and I can't even imagine what a hard story it must be to live and tell, but I can't wait to hug its neck. So I'm looking forward to the end of the month, and ACIP is going to be amazing. I think that at this point, with what just happened in Washington, they know we're heading to ACIP. I mean, you saw the emails, registration is jam-packed to the point they literally added an extra viewing room. Still, it's overflowing to the point literally hundreds are still being left out. So just amazing how everybody is just really, really getting together and starting to unite. I'm not seeing half as much arguing and pettiness in the background anymore, and I think that really is also making a really big difference. We really do have to stick together in order to get anywhere.
Yes, we really do. And I think it's great that, some of the arguing is, at least I'm not seeing it. Who knows if it's happening.
Yeah.
But,
I usually get told about it right off the bat, and I haven't heard much, so that's good. Because, I'm kind of the peacekeeper, so a lot of times when stuff breaks out, people start messaging me about it and trying to get me to go in and break it up. So.
Yeah, that used to happen to me quite a bit as well. But ever since I started doing this show with you, Lynette, and I started telling people they need to get their act together, I think people are just like, they probably feel like they can't talk to me about it anymore because I'm just like, dude, you're wasting time.
We're tough love. Yes, we are tough love kind of people. We can't help ourselves, but it's the way it has to be. We're out of time. We can't pussyfoot around stuff anymore, and that's just the truth of it. And I think my favorite thing about you. And way before we even started doing shows live together, when we talked, I think that's my favorite thing is that Anu is as real as it gets, and you can talk to Anu about anything, and he don't care if you're gonna disagree, and he knows it. If it's gonna hurt your feelings, whatever it is, he's gonna say it to you. He's gonna be real. And even if it stings a little bit, in a minute he'll pat you on the back and tell you how it's going to be all right. But he's still going to tell you the damn truth.
Yeah, because you know what? I respect the person I'm talking to more than the comfortableness of lying to you. Like I do not see any what's the word? Upside. I do not see any upside to appeasing a human being at one way or the other. I really don't. It doesn't do anybody any good. The only thing it does is take you out of an uncomfortable situation. And some people might say, well, that's good enough for me. If that's good enough for you, okay, but my God, that must be a weird, that must be a really horrible way to live life. If you're constantly afraid of being in uncomfortable situations.
I've changed so much anew in this last little bit of my life, like going through separation, divorce, all those kind of things. Like, I don't know what it is, but I have changed. I've turned into one of those no-nonsense kind of women. I used to be one of those kind of women who I would kind of bow my head. I would listen, and I was afraid to have my own opinion even. And, it's so weird to me now. Like, I had a guy message me last night that I used to date, good Lord, 15, 20 years ago when I worked in the tattoo industry. And maybe about 15 years, he messaged me, and he is recently married, so I'm not going to say his name, but he wasn't being respectful of his wife. We'll just put it that way. And I was laughing. My daughter was sitting next to me, and it pretty much told him off. And she was like, good Lord, Mom, I can't believe you just did that. And I was like, shoot, this man's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, respect your wife. Don't, try to talk to some other female like that just because your wife's asleep. And my daughter was laughing so hard, and I said, this world is so crazy to me. Like, before, I would have been like, oh, dude, whatever. Like, I would have been all nice. And, I just, ripped him a new one and just was like, peace. And she was just like, I can't believe you. And I was like, life changes you, though. You know what I mean? Like, you become, at some point, I think, when you've been through enough stuff, you get to this point of no nonsense. Like, I don't have time for the crap. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, man.
I'm totally with you on that. And I've mentioned this before, I think, on this show, but there are some people, and these are people that I care about, and I care about their opinion, and I see where they're coming from with this opinion. But there is one characteristic that I have. There's this thing about me that I'm not particularly proud of because I feel like that it could be better, but I feel that it is just and fair. And I could be wrong about this, but I feel like it is just and fair. And I'll explain what it is. There are times when people are just being, for lack of a better word, assholes, okay? And they're flat out wrong. They're just flat out wrong. Everybody knows it except for them. Okay? But the way they're presenting their idea is from a very arrogant type of way, and the way that, and then they add on top of it a condescending tone because they feel like putting you down and making you feel like less, right, is the way to get their point across even more. And in those situations, I apologize to everybody that thinks this is the wrong way to deal with it, but I feel like in those situations, those people deserve to be taken down a few notches in an aggressive way. Because, first of all, they will not listen to any other way, because obviously if they're taking that way of approaching you, you know what I'm saying? They obviously don't see what respectful discourse is. But if you have the capability to take them down a few notches, you almost owe it to society. This is my opinion. You almost owe it to society to take that person down a few notches using maybe even their own tools, just a little bit. Because if you don't understand by a certain point in your adulthood, at least, hopefully you've learned it before you turn like 24 or 25, that you are not the top dog in the room all the time, and there's someone always more top dog than you, then you need to be taken down a few notches. And a lot of people have told me that's the wrong way to approach things, but I feel as though we have spent the last couple of decades not taking those kind of people down a few notches, and it's created an environment where everybody thinks no matter what they say to people, nobody is going to it's an aggressive word, but that nobody is going to retaliate. And therefore they feel totally fine with cutting people down for no other reason than thinking that they are somehow brought up by taking somebody else down. I'm sorry, that's not playing in this game anymore. If you're in my house and you try to pull that kind of shenanigans, you're going to get taken down a few notches. And because I grew up where if I was saying something that was disrespectful, condescending, and if I was being rude, you were damn well sure someone that respected me and cared about me and also cared about the other person took me down a few notches.
Yep.
And I learned.
Same here. Yeah, that's how you learn. I agree with you.
Yeah. My respect and love for my fellow human being and the person that I'm talking to in front of me comes from the fact that I realized that, holy cow, I'm not the hot shit I think I am.
Well, you are to me, but whatever.
And nobody is. Huh? I am not the hot shit I think I am. Nobody is the hot shit they think they are. Okay? There's very few things in the world that are as cool as they put out to be. Star Trek.
True that.
Star Wars. Donuts. Donuts are pretty awesome. But you are not hot shit. Everybody needs to chill out. Everybody's walking around with their egos and peacocking and flailing around how awesome they are, how much time they think everybody should be giving them, and no, I'm sorry. If we want to be taken seriously as human beings, we need to start dealing in the world as if we want a meritocracy. If you are purely trying to get time in the world because you feel somehow that you're a celebrity or that somehow everybody should be listening to you and it's on your ego and identity politics, I'm sorry. No.
No, I agree. You know what? I tell you, that's one of the things that I love about Christianity. When I know everybody sees the world differently. But I just, one of the things that I love is that the prideful man will be humbled, and the humble man will be praised. Ego is such a sad thing, and we see it every day all over the place, be it in the movement or wherever. And it's hard sometimes, I think, for anybody who's a human being not to have ego at some point. Sometimes I think maybe we get a little confused between pride and ego, but we really do. There's a fine line, and I don't think I'm hot shit. I definitely don't think I'm hot shit. I'm quite the opposite. I usually feel the other way about myself, but I feel like we all have our place here, though, and we all have that whatever our purpose may be. And if I even lift up one person's day, every day, then I feel like I've done something. And to be able to not only do that, but that was like going to the grocery store. I had a weird experience. You know how I am. I'm crazy Anu, and I got Jazzy in her stroller, and Lawlyn's behind me with Lily in the regular shopping cart. And I'm running down the aisle with Jazzy doing zigzags, because that's just who I am. And and all of a sudden another adult hits the aisle and we make eye contact, so I try to act normal. And around the aisle to the next aisle, and I hear the lady say to my daughter, Lawlyn, all I can hear is Lawlyn say, "Yes, that's her." And I was like, who is she, talking to? So I round back around the aisle, and she was like, "Are you Lynette from Facebook, from the CDC, Lynette?" I was like, "Yeah." And this is in my local grocery store. And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, my goodness." And, she was just so – it was one of those weird moments, and we got in the car, and Lawlyn's like, "That was so weird, Mom." Oh, man, that was so weird. And I was like, it is a freaky feeling, but I was like, if you go through that, it's like you don't ever – to me, she was just as awesome. Like I said, and that's what people need to realize when you – whoever, I didn't know her, honestly. She was actually friends with my daughter and not me. I didn't even know she was, but she knew who I was. And so I told my daughter, I was like, you really don't know who's out there listening, and you don't know whose day you might have inspired or who you might have picked up, but don't ever, let them be that same inspiration to you. Don't ever take that for granted. That's, it's an amazing feeling, but, I wanted her to go home, and I hope she felt just as awesome as we did by meeting her. She was just such a sweet woman, and she has a vaccine-injured son, and it just breaks my heart. But it's just so cool to find your tribe locally on accident,
Those experiences really are weird. I've never gotten used to them, to be honest. That kind of experience when someone recognizes you from somewhere else or something like that, and and wants to talk to you because somehow you've been in their periphery or and then suddenly you have no idea who this person is, but they know who you are. That's still a little weird to me when it happens.
You probably had that the first day I met you, because I knew who you were. And I was like, I loved you to death, And so the only conversation I really struck up with you, because I'm like a nerd, was about I think Starbucks coffee and caramel macchiato and the Americana or something. But it's like,
I think I remember actually making a comment about that. I remember the first time I met you, kind of vaguely, and I remember thinking, I'm pretty sure I made a comment "Oh, I love caramel macchiatos."
Yeah. I was like, man, that's my drink. Oh, man. Yeah, it's so funny, though, the little weird little things. But I remember, telling my daughter, I was like, these are my people. I've never felt in my life like I fit in anywhere. I just haven't. I mean, I grew up in a weird way, and, I just always kind of felt like that outcast, the black sheep, whatever. And for the first time in my life, of course it would be in some crazy, movement, but for the first time in my life, I feel like I fit in somewhere. I feel like I have a family. I mean, I know I do. And I feel loved, and it's so beautiful because finally I can not only give love, but I can receive it. And, that's kind of a first in my life for me, where it's actually completely a reciprocal, a circle kind of thing, where I'm receiving what I'm giving. And I mean, and a lot of times tenfold even that, the love that pours in, the messages. I mean, it's always mind blowing to me that some little crazy-looking woman like me from Alabama can affect somebody else's day wherever they may be. It's just a unique world and a unique time we're in, and we have to take advantage of that. You knowing all the stuff you know about technology. I'm telling you, when I can afford to, I'm going to take you up on that. You had made a joke one time on the show about, you guys need a tech guy. You fly me there. I'll come help you. So I told Lon, it's like, all right, that's it. We're starting savings account. Like, I need to learn how to do all these things, for even like Patreon, it's so confusing to me. I don't understand incentives. I don't understand anything. And so many people say, how can we help y'all with the show? How can we help you do more with the show? We'd actually love to see you and Anu do more. And it's like, I would love that too. It's just we financially, all this is out of pocket, anything we do. So, we have to be able to afford to live and eat and still do all those things too. So, I'm always trying to figure out how to get more savvy and find more ways to reach out to people. And I'm still learning Twitter, how Twitter works. I'm still that old school on the internet. I'm still learning how Twitter even works.
And here's the thing, like there is so much to learn. There is so much to know. There's so much, and it can be a daunting, overwhelming kind of, thing to look at, because you're thinking, oh my gosh, the learning curve to get to a point where I feel comfortable doing this thing is completely and utterly out of reach. I mean, you might as well start trying to be an astronaut now. You know what I mean? Like it may seem that way. But I will tell you this. To social media, when it comes to tech or anything like that, the good thing about it is that you can learn things incrementally, right? And as you learn things and you pick up skills, you will slowly get better at those things. Like, for instance, I don't think people actually grasp what it is to be involved in tech the way someone like me is. Every day almost, something new comes my way. Tech is moving so quickly, and that's scary to people as well, right? But tech, it moves so quickly that literally 2 weeks from now, everything that I thought was the end all be all of, say, let's just take any topic like cameras, right? I could be completely wrong 2 weeks from now. And in fact, I had a recent experience that was pretty much that way. I was looking for cameras that I wanted to buy for myself, because I'm starting to do more video production stuff outside of the high wire and help people like I did with Washington and stuff. And I was looking for equipment, looking for cameras to do this stuff. And I was just like, oh, crap, how am I going to afford it? Because the kind of equipment that I needed, the kind of camera that I needed to be able to do those things was at least $1,600 to $2,000, and that's just the camera. Doesn't include the lens. Doesn't include like anything else. And it was limited in its fashion of being able to do like different things. And so I was like, man, I'm not going to be able to afford this. I'm going to be $3,000 to $4,000 in just for one camera. And so I did more research, and I was like, it was not looking good. And then it just sparked in me. I was like, wait a minute, there's this other company that makes cameras that is that usually is quite a bit less expensive. Let me see if they have any options. Little did I know I was going to find a camera that completely changed the way I thought about buying cameras. And it was only like $400.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I was like, $400, so I bought 3 of them, because I was like, and the quality is amazing. And mind you, it's not as good as, say, the $1,600 or the $2,500 camera. It's not as good as that, granted. But the fact that it gave me all the functionality I needed for $400 as someone who wants to restart doing this stuff, it was just a couple of years ago impossible. But it comes from research. My main point is that things are constantly changing. So you kind of have to slowly and incrementally learn these things. Everything is an incremental approach. Social media, like having a brand recognition, having people finally recognize who you are on social media. Everybody, and a lot of people in this community think this, that they somehow will have one viral video and suddenly everybody will see who they are. It's not how social media works. If you really want brand red to be a long-term thing, you got to think of social media as a, incremental, cumulative, long-term approach. That's how you got to think about it. So you just got to start doing it slowly. I mean, for you, Lynette, if you just started every day putting a couple of tweets out about some piece of information that you have found, you would slowly start seeing your Twitter grow.
Yeah, I need to do that. I'm trying to figure that one out. Yeah. Oh, hey, also shout out to Anu for crawling on the floor, fixing Dell's sound this past week during High Wire. We all saw your handsome self crawling across the floor in your army crawl there. My daughter and I were cracking up laughing. I was like,
Yeah, I was trying to be all, sneaky about it, but my body doesn't do sneaky anymore, so.
That car wreck ended sneaky.
I am no longer sneaky.
Oh, man, that was so funny. I told Lala, I was like, I knew it was going to be you as soon as the sound went out. And I was like, wait for it. And then I just see you pop up out of the corner.
Yep.
Oh, man, good stuff, man.
I want to address that really quick. By the way, everybody that's out there right now that is a big Windows fan, and they're like, oh, screw Apple and Mac and blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you something. I have never used a Mac where the USB device just stopped working. Never. Not once. Ever.
Yeah.
But I've had it happen tons of times on a Windows machine. And so that's what happened. Honestly, so our main computer is a Windows computer, a custom-built Windows computer, okay? It is, this thing is, we lovingly call it Darth Maul because it looks like, it looks really impressive, right? It is a extremely powerful computer. It could probably fly if it had wings. This thing is ridiculous. It's a really cool computer. But we have to run Windows on it for the kind of software we need to do the broadcast, right? And the way you get, and I know this is getting kind of nerdy and stuff and it's off topic, but just to put this kind of stuff out, just to show you the kind of stuff that people like me have to learn. The way you get microphones and stuff into a computer is through a device called an audio interface. It converts the analog microphone to a digital a signal to put into your computer. Okay, that's the basic way that works. These audio interfaces are connected using USB cables and the USB protocol, okay? Windows, for some reason, sometimes just goes, screw it, and just disconnects the USB. This is the kind of stuff that I have to deal with.
Yeah.
And so, so suddenly, sometimes audio just goes out, and then you see my non-sneaky ass crawling into the screen.
Yeah, but it gives us all a kick out here, so it's worth it. I'm always like, shout out to Anu, woo woo.
I hope one day I can be sneaky again, because I remember being like trying to crawl in. I was like, ah.
Oh man, it cracked me up. Well, we enjoy seeing you, so it's okay. Oh my goodness. Oh man. Well, I'm so proud of you for getting out there and being a part of that. I know you were doing it for work, but I know you were also there on a personal level. And it was just a beautiful turnout. And, I hope one day to get to be a part of a crowd that large that is on our side and, just to feel the power of it. One of my friends said, she said, you prophesied this. You put that on my Facebook. It made me laugh. And I said, well, I definitely dream about it all the time because I know what we're capable of. And I know what we're capable of in a large number. And and I know what we're capable of if we all just get on the same page. And, you and I have talked about it in depth, but, it really is true. History repeats itself, but having it repeat itself in the right ways for the right reasons we all have a hand in things. We can all, be small pieces of something that's huge. And, Washington was just a small example of that. It's very exciting. And anybody listening, thank you for getting out there. I know it's scary. Believe me, I know it's scary. But that is the thing, is freedom over fear. I mean, we've got it. The only time that they have your power is when you hand it to them.
Yeah, the sheer number of people that showed up. I mean, it was really empowering to see so many people that were there in Washington. I was so glad to be there, and after being there at the Washington rally, it's I'll be honest, it's not within my financial capabilities to be going to these things. That being said, I'm going to try and figure out a way that I can be more present at these things, because or be present at these things more. Because it was it's something that I want to be able to do at least once. I don't know how regularly.
I told Patrick that they need to bring you.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, right? What I do for a living and what I do to like what my world is really requires me to. I live a very solitary lifestyle because I have to spend a lot of time just making sure the tech is working. And I'll tell you this, technology, it's not very personable, doesn't like to have conversations. I mean, people have seen me talk to computers, but it's probably because I'm losing my mind. But it doesn't talk back. So I lead kind of a solitary lifestyle in the sense that I spend a lot of time just trying to figure out why the tech isn't working the way it should be. So, it's one of those things where I have to spend so much time doing that, I miss out on other stuff. Not that I really am sad about it, but I do wish I could be at more things like ASIP and things of that nature. I am definitely going to be at Autism 1 this year. I'm going to do everything in my power to get there.
Dude, I want to be there so bad. I'm telling you, I want to be there so bad. It's just money. I mean, I've wanted to go every single year. Last year when I looked into it, it was going to cost me close to $2,000 with if I was to fly out, have a rental car, and fly back. It was somewhere around $2,000. Like, it was just unfeasible. It sucks because I have Jazzy, and I'd love to go, and I'd love to hear them speak. And, I mean, I want to go so bad. And I hear every year, and I say everybody go, and every time I'm just sitting here like,
yeah, I mean,
it's so expensive.
It's an amazing place.
And it's confusing, Anu. I'm not going to lie to you. When you try to, figure out how everything works, I didn't understand it at all. When I was looking to try to figure out what it would cost, it was like there's so many different things that cost extra or cost this. It was like there's some kind of movie night. There's these different dinners. But it seemed like you didn't know what you were paying for or how much you were going to pay. It was just really confusing.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably something that we should talk about. I think there probably are other people that have the same kind of questions and confusion about, when you look at these conference things, because understandably so, I get it, because I've been to quite a few conferences in my past, even before I joined this community, different kinds of conferences, tech conferences and things of that nature. And usually when you look at the website, they're saying, and they have all these different versions of the tickets, it's so confusing. It's like, wait, so if I buy this ticket, does that mean I get general admission to the exhibit? And if I go to this exhibit, am I allowed to go to this part of the exhibit, or is that not part of the general? It just gets super confusing. So maybe what we should do, Lynette, is what do you think about we make a list of the different conferences and stuff? We go through these things, try to figure it out, and then on the show sometimes we can explain some of these things.
I think that would be awesome. See, that's the kind of stuff I would love to be doing, Anu. And that's actually, I was talking to Patrick one day, and he said, you know, you and Anu are awesome. You guys need to be able to do more together. And I completely agree because, I mean, so many people message me and tell me, I love you guys dynamic. I love you guys together. You're so different, but you're like, you just do so well together. Like, I mean, that was why I wanted you to be on the show with me, because I knew that just from our friendship, we would have a blast on here. And I think we could be doing so much more. And honestly, this movement keeps me going. It literally is the steam and the wind behind me. So I'm always trying to, you know, figure out what the next thing is and what's coming. And I do think that would be amazing. And I'm going to try everything I can to come up with money to do Autism One. I really hope I can be there because, like I said, even just for the sake of listening and being able to meet some of these people and talk to them about my own daughter would just be invaluable to me. It would just mean the world. So.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Autism One this year, I just have a feeling that Autism One this year is going to be badass. Like, there's going to be, because there's things happening right now, you know, there's so many things happening right now, so many different organizations that are doing amazing work. You know, there's ICANN, there's Children's Health Defense, there's Informed Choice Washington, all the Informed Choice groups across the country. There's so many things happening. And then science that's coming out, you know, these amazing, there's so many things happening. I just feel like Autism One, if everybody in the community can try, well, not everybody, I don't think they have the space for that, but if as many people as possible in the community can come to Autism One, I think it's going to be awesome because there's going to be lots of people there that we're just going to have great conversations. We're going to learn a lot from each other. I think it's going to be amazing. I've always been a fan of Autism One. I mean, there's a reason why Autism One is one of the most respected, you know, conferences in our community. It's because it is an amazing resource of new information of people who really are trying to help. It's amazing. So I'll see you guys there. I know you got to go, Lynette.
Anybody out there who, yeah, I was just going to say, anybody out there who may be going, if you got a spare space on your rug, I'll bring a cot or a little foam pad. Y'all let me know. I can save some money. Maybe I'll actually be able to come. Y'all know from Ace to I don't mind sleeping on the floor. I don't care. I'll sleep wherever I have to sleep in order to be where I need to be. Oh, my goodness. Well, I love you, Anu, and I will talk to you next Monday. Next Monday, we have Jennifer Oliveras on with me talking about some craziness that happened to her daughter at a Bagels Galore and such. So, but I will talk to you soon. Of course, I'm sure I'll talk to you before then. But I love you, my friend, and thank you for joining me this week. And have an amazing day at the High Wire, working your butt off.
I love you too, Lynette, and I love all you guys listening. Take it easy. Have a wonderful week, and keep it real.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. All right, you guys, we are going to take a quick commercial break, and then we are going to have my main guest for the day on, Miss Destiny Maynard. And get your tissue boxes ready. I've already had, this is a hard one, and these kind of stories always are, but they have to be told. And I respect this mother so much for even being able to do this. So you guys just hang in there. I've got to help play some commercials because they've got to help Freedomizer pay these bills, and we will be right back.
Imagine standing barefoot on cushy grass while you use a professional-grade knife to deftly chop fresh vegetables on your organic bamboo cutting board. The team at MyZestyNest.com wants to help your family enjoy home cooking like this more often. They do this by offering fun and functional tools that make your time in the kitchen more efficient and enjoyable. MyZestyNest.com offers the finest and most interesting kitchen goods and accessories, all backed by their world-class customer service team. Check out their ever-expanding inventory today. Visit MyZestyNest.com. That's zesty like spicy, nest like home. MyZestyNest.com.
Vaccines are required for students, employees, immigrants, military members, and international travel. Do you know how to legally avoid them? This is vaccine rights attorney and Freedomizer radio host Alan Phillips. My vaccine exemption ebook can help you avoid the mistakes that have cost others their exemption rights. Get the authoritative guide to vaccine legal exemptions, an ebook available at freedomizerradio.com and vaccinerights.com.
Let freedom ring throughout the land.
You're an activist. You have a cause and an idea, but you also have lots of questions. You need help. After all, teams have coaches, corporations have consultants, and even politicians have campaign managers. But who do activists turn to? The Solutions Institute. We are a collection of professionals and activists from across the political spectrum. Our goal is to teach, motivate, and put all the necessary tools for activism in your hands without charge. Learn more or submit your project at solutions-institute.org.
You know the Constitution like the back of your hand. You've read books, listened to podcasts, attended lectures, surfed websites, and watched videos. You've made liberty your life's goal, but something seems to be missing. Stickers from LibertyStickers.com. Exercise your freedom of speech with the world's most dangerous bumper stickers. That's LibertyStickers.com. But wait, there's more. You can buy Liberty Stickers wholesale. Get them for 99 cents each when you put 100 or more in your shopping cart in any combination. Sell them or give them away. They're great for gun shows, flea markets, fairs, outreach, and more. Earn extra money, promote freedom, and spread the word. Need custom stickers, labels, or decals for your organization or business? Liberty Stickers makes them. Go to LibertyStickers.com to order or call 877-873-9626. LibertyStickers.com, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Get ready for the epic new documentary adventure ride of your life. Shade the Motion Picture. Hub you into the globalist domain and embellish and burn film.
Nothing in this world works the way you think it does. Nothing. Governments do not operate the way you think they do. Banks do not do what you think they do. The police department is not here for what you think it is. Nothing in your world works the way you think it does.
We had to let them know that their world government has been identified, and they thought they'd implode the world economy to bring in a worldwide police state, but instead, it's going to bring them down.
You have to stand up, speak up, speak out. Shade the Motion Picture. Order your copy of the DVD today at shadethemotionpicture.com.
All right, you guys, we are back. You are listening to Forsaken Generation Radio Show. I am your host, Lynette Marie Barron. That first hour, that was my best friend and sidekick, Anu Vaidya, joining me. And now I am going to bring on Miss Destiny Maynard. Can you hear me, Destiny?
I can.
Welcome to the show, and everybody, y'all, Destiny's nervous, but don't be nervous, girl. It's all good. There have been many, many mothers on my show right there where you are, including myself. It's a little nerve-wracking, but these stories have got to be told, and what a whopper of this is your life. I can't imagine being through, girl, you are one strong mama. So I usually the way that I do this is I just let you tell your story, and if I have a question or an interjection, I'll hop in there. But how did this start? What brought all of this? What opened your eyes? How did this? I don't even know how to ask you this question because, man, your story is insane. I mean, it's a heavy story, girl.
Yes, it is. So I guess I'll just start off by saying that, Christopher was getting ready to start his high school career. He had to get his physical for sports, and that's where it all began. We took him to his doctor's office, and unfortunately we didn't get to see his regular pediatrician. There was a mix-up with our scheduled appointments, and so we ended up seeing the nurse practitioner in the office. And when he came in, we had seen him before, so they were pretty comfortable with him. But when we went in, he just, the only vaccination that Christopher was offered was he had the HPV vaccine, and then he had, I can't think of the one they do on your arm to see if it bubbles up. but he had those too. So, and I had already turned down the HPV vaccine for my older son at one point just because I really didn't know anything about it, and it wasn't required. And that was with our regular pediatrician, and he never pressured me. He wasn't pushy. This gentleman, not so much. He basically told me that it was a preventative for them. They were getting older. They both should be getting it. They were going to, be sexually active soon. It was going to protect their future partners. And like I've said before, what parent doesn't want to protect their kids and potentially their future partners, children? So I got it for both of them, not just Christopher. My older son had that vaccine and the MMR vaccine that day.
Wow.
So that's where it all started for us. From there,
they are such smooth talkers. I mean,
gosh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they they are such smooth talkers. They could, they did the same thing to us, Destiny, where they make you feel like you have no idea. I mean, you don't know anything, and they can this is what they need, and it'll protect their future wife and this and that. And I mean, the saddest part is, as a doctor, they should know better, and they should actually look into HPV and cervical cancer. I mean, just as a parent, I'm sure you know everything about this now, and how sad is it that you know more than probably 99.9% of doctors in that field in America. Absolutely.
And the worst part about it is my kids have went to that doctor since they were babies. They've went to that office since they were babies, and they know Christopher's background. They knew that he suffered from asthma. They knew that he suffered from allergies. And not every single study, but anything that I've read shows that anybody with an autoimmune disease, that one is one that they should avoid. And he didn't take the time to even look at that or even care, and nor has he since, because this gentleman has never reached out to my family. So.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
His regular pediatrician sent us a card, but this gentleman has never once reached out, which that speaks mountains of your character. So. Yeah.
So your son has this vaccine, and he goes into he seems okay. Right. I mean, from the I guess right afterwards, but then it quickly starts to snowball.
It does,
but
like
at
that moment in time, I never thought about the vaccination at all, because I've just always, we just did an interview not too long ago, and I mean, what I said, I meant, like, my parents vaccinated myself, me and my sister, like, I never thought about it. I never thought they were bad, because it just was never an option. We just did what our doctor said, because God forbid they're the doctor, they know what's best for us. Clearly, I've learned that is not the case. So he didn't have any reaction at the time. Neither one of my boys did. No, a lot of people say that, children are passing out or he never did anything like that. A couple weeks went by, and he started to have some headaches, and I got a headache. It's hot out. He's been out on a scooter. He's been riding his bike. It's summer, playing baseball, things like that. I didn't really think anything of it. He definitely was an ibuprofen kid. He would pop that ibuprofen like nobody's business. Actually, funny little story, even though it's not funny, in the hospital when they put an IV in his arm, he wasn't talking a lot, but he said to the nurse, he said, "Ouch." And she was like, "Where are you hurting?" And he was like, "Right here." And he pointed to the IV, and he's like, "I think I need ibuprofen." I'm like, oh my gosh, child. He loved his ibuprofen.
Lord. Yeah, my daughter did too for her cramps all the time, and I'd say, "Girl, you don't need that stuff." And it's like, and that's her same one. I don't know what's up with that one. This generation, they like the ibuprofen.
I know, so funny. So he 2 weeks go by, and he's having headaches. Well, then he starts to complain that his throat was hurting. I was working. It was summer, so I had told him, just take it easy, takes my ibuprofen. I even said there's Dayquil because he was having a headache and a sore throat. So he did, but towards the end of July, about the 30th or 31st, he had texted me and he said that he had a pretty severe headache, and his throat was really starting to bother him. So I told him I would take him to the express care. So on August 1st, I took him in to our express care, and they did a strep culture, and it came back negative. And so they said, just treat his symptoms, basically. And so that's what we did. And he didn't really say much more about it. On the 6th is when he started football. So he went on his first day of football practice, which was August 6th. He went, and his dad and him own a lawn care service. So he went with his dad to work that morning and did complain of a headache. And so his dad got him a Gatorade and, told him to stay hydrated because it is hot out, and then ended up dropping him off at football practice. He apparently, we didn't know this right away, but apparently he did not practice much that day. Was complaining of a headache and kind of feeling like he was going to pass out. So the medic there had him sit out for that day. They brought him home from practice, and I got off of work and came home, and he was in bed between 6:30 and 7. I didn't really think anything of it. He had been feeling a little under the weather, so I thought, and was mowing lawns that morning and then did football. I'm like, it was a long day for him. So he went to bed, didn't think anything of it, woke up. Tuesday afternoon, my older son, Jeremiah, had been texting me all day long, like, Christopher's still in bed. Kind of, a little bit, he was like, I'm not doing all the chores by myself and I can't get him to wake up. And I'm like, well, just chill, leave him alone. Let him sleep a little longer, just wake him up before his ride gets there for football. So he woke up like literally when the ride was pulling up, went to practice. And again, was not feeling good at practice. He was throwing up, though, this day. He was super weak. This one always chokes me up a little bit when I talk about it because it makes me feel like, I wasn't there to help him. So his buddies were standing around him chanting, trying to get him to do his push-ups. And he just was too weak. He couldn't do them. So he again sat out, and he was throwing up this day, which I never got a phone call about that, so I didn't even know that that all of this was going on. He comes home that night, and we figured, his stepdad and I figured we'd get him his favorite food, which was Chinese food. He loved Chinese food. So we ordered him some food. We thought, he probably hasn't ate a lot in the last couple of days. Again, it's summer. They're out doing their thing. I'm not there to cook for him. I'm at work. So we got him food, and he ate, and he went up and showered and went directly, came downstairs and was passing out in the chair. And I put a Snapchat, I did a Snapchat post where I had said football was really kicking his ass. That was what I said on my post. So he went to bed that night. That was Tuesday night. On Wednesday morning, my older son had texted me and said, Mom, I'm not doing all the chores today, and Chris won't get up again. And I was like, well, I don't know what's going on with your brother, but I said I think that he's just had too much excitement these last few days. Why don't we just let him sleep? I don't think he's feeling the greatest. And he was like, okay. Yeah. So I said, I'll go ahead and I'll text his coach and tell him he's going to take the day off of football. I think he's had enough for a couple of days. So around noon, Jeremiah texted me again and said, Mom, I have been trying to wake this kid up, and I cannot get him to wake up. And I said, well, why don't we, I really don't think he's feeling good. Jeremiah was like, why don't you go and get him some Gatorade, because I think we need to get him hydrated. I truthfully, honestly thought that with everything that's been going on, I just don't think he's been paying attention to what he's eating and drinking, and he was getting dehydrated. So he went and got him Gatorade, and that didn't really do anything. I mean, obviously it didn't do anything because he took a couple of sips and that was about it. So that evening I had called my husband and I was like, I'm going to get off of work. Is Christopher up yet? And he was like, no, he's still sleeping. And I was like, well, can you please go down and try to wake him up? Jeremiah has been trying to wake him up all day and we can't get him to wake up. I want to make sure that everything's okay with him. And he went down to try to wake him up. I was on the phone and he couldn't get him to wake up either. So I came home. I called Elijah and I said, I'm on my way home. I think something's wrong with Chris. I don't know if you've talked to anybody today, and I know he had talked to Jeremiah. And then he said, well, why don't you just call me when you get home and you check on him and see how he's doing? And I was like, okay, blah, blah, blah. Let him go, get home. I come into the house and I'm like, I go down to Christopher's room. I flip his light on and I said, Christopher, I need you to wake up. I need you to get up. Something is wrong with you. I need to talk to you. I need to see you. And so he stands up and he's wobbly. His eyes are kind of rolling around. He's not saying anything. He's just standing there swaying back and forth. And I was like, okay, why don't you pick a T-shirt out. We got to get you to the emergency room because, God forbid Mom pick out your shirt. So I won't pick the right one. So he just
I know how that goes.
I know. Looks at his rack of shirts and literally takes each hanger individually and slides it from one end of the hanger or of the shelf to the next. Like just slides every T-shirt, every hanger over individually. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just pick one. So I pick one and I go and I put it over his head. And his left hand didn't pull all the way through the sleeve, and he used his right hand and pulled it off of his head again. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I put it on him again, and the same thing happened, and he took his right hand and he slid the shirt back up over his head, took it off again. So I was like, Christopher, I need you to put this shirt on. And I slide it over his head again, and he tries to take it off again. And so I'm like, I'm physically like wrestling this kid to keep this shirt on. And he has no idea what he's doing. None at all.
Oh, wow.
So at that point, I knew that something wasn't right. I'm like, okay, we got to get this kid to the doctor. So I tell him, let's go upstairs. I have his, I put his shoes down. He slides his shoes on. And in our yard, we have our garage, and there's a fence right next to our garage, and then that's leading out to the back alley. So Christopher goes out our sliding glass door, goes to the garage, but passes the garage, leaves the yard, and is literally walking to the neighbor's garage and I'm yelling his name the whole time behind him. Like, I always park my car in the garage. Everybody knows that. So he knows that. And he just keeps walking all the way to the neighbor's garage. And he stands directly in front with his face touching their garage. So I walk him back to our garage, and I tell him to go and get in his, go and get in. And he stands by the car and, just flicks the handle. And, like he doesn't know how to open the car door. So I walk around, I put him into the car, I get in, I put his seatbelt on him, and I start driving. And I reach over, and I put my hand on his hand, and I said, Bub, that was his nickname, was Bub. I was like, Bub, what's wrong? And he was like, I don't know, I'm just so confused, Mom. And I was like, well, we're going to the hospital right now. I'm going to get you better. Totally ate my words. But so we get down there, and they do all kinds of, blood work, and everything's coming back normal. Like, they're not saying anything's elevated. They're not saying anything looks, suspicious. They're saying that all of his blood work's coming back normal. They need to get a urine sample, but they couldn't get a urine sample because every time we would take him to the bathroom, he would just stand there and stand there and stand there. At this point, he's really not talking. He's giving, thumbs up. He'll say a few words here and there, but he's piercing his lips. He's doing this weird thing with his lips. he was like flicking my fingernails with his thumb. And I don't know, he was just, he was not communicating really.
Right.
So they said they wanted to do a lumbar puncture. And then after they did the lumbar puncture here, they were going to send him off to either Iowa City Children's Hospital, or they were going to send him to Peoria. And so, me being who I am, I said, to his dad, I said, if they're going to do a lumbar puncture, I would rather, if they're going to send him somewhere, I would rather someone else do it. I don't want him to do it here. So we agreed that, we would send him to Iowa City, and then the lumbar puncture would be done there. So we got into the hospital around 8 o'clock, the local hospital around 8 o'clock, probably around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And by 1 a.m., we were already in Iowa City in a regular room. That was on Thursday, technically Thursday. And they looked over him, as soon as we got there, the lumbar puncture was done, and then they did a CAT scan, and then they did an MRI, like boom, boom, boom. Lumbar puncture came back that he did have elevated white blood cell count, and then we got the CAT scan done, and it did show that he had some swelling in his brain. And then the MRI results showed that he had some stuff going on. He had some lesions on his brain. And then the neurologist came in and talked to us and told us that he was pretty confident in his diagnosis of ADEM. We had already spoke to a couple of people about, what he's been dealing with in life for the last few months, which it kind of all stemmed back to this vaccine, because he was tested for infections. He was tested for all of these things. The second we walked through the local hospital doors, he didn't have any infections. He wasn't sick. He didn't have bacterial. He didn't have any viral infections. He had nothing except for the HPV vaccination. So his neurologist wrote me a statement after Christopher's death that he believes that this case of ADEM was caused by his HPV vaccine. I actually have two statements, one from him and one from the lead resident that was taking care of Christopher while he was there. And they both believe that it was the HPV vaccine. So it doesn't happen very often, so I'm told. So those things are locked away tight.
Yeah.
They...
A lot of times, even if they do admit it, they'll take it back.
Right. Yeah, and we stayed on him. We went and visited. We've done, some, since Christopher's passed, we've done some donations of, we had a huge group, two huge groups actually, of people that have made blankets, and we took them up and donated them to the Children's Hospital because while we were there, Elijah and I both got a blanket. They covered Christopher up with some blankets and gave him some pillowcases because he's a huge Cubs fan. So we got some baseball and Cubs things that they sent home with us. And I can tell you that whenever I'm feeling sad, I know that those were keeping him warm and safe. And so they mean so much to me. So we have and we'll continue to donate to the Children's Hospital because, they were phenomenal to Christopher. So, anywho, they had basically told us that, he was being diagnosed with ADEM. And ADEM is a direct side effect of the HPV vaccination, as well as a headache and a sore throat are the very, very first things that people start to complain about after their HPV vaccination. So they diagnosed him with ADEM, and the doctor said, we'll start on some heavy steroids. He said for 5 days, we probably won't see a lot, but after the 5th day, you generally start to see your child coming back to life. Is ADEM something that we see all the time? He said, no, it's not. However, it is curable and he can survive. So
I just want to interject real quick for our listeners who don't know what ADEM is, and I just wanted to say this honestly. The first thing that pops up was actually from Wikipedia, because I just wanted to read the definition, but this is what it says. Acute disseminated encephalomyelitis is characterized by a brief but widespread attack of inflammation in the brain and spinal cord that damages myelin, the protective covering of nerve fibers. This is ADEM often follows viral or bacterial infections, or less often vaccination for measles, mumps, and rubella. That's the top thing that comes up when you punch in ADEM, just for the readers. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It literally says following vaccination, and this one says for the MMR. But I think most of these vaccinations, the cocktails are pretty similar, other than a few ingredients. It seems when you read all these inserts and things, the main adjuvants and things of that nature seem to be pretty follow suit.
Right. And ADEM is listed on the inserts on the HPV vaccination. So I have it. I have read that thing 15 times. So I
bet you have.
So basically he told us that we had to do the steroids. Like, that was the most effective way to get the swelling to go down in Christopher's brain. That was on Friday, I believe. Yeah, Friday. And after the 5 days is when you generally start to see that basically life come back to that child, because he's not talking. At this point on Friday, Christopher was completely paralyzed on the left side of his body. He could not move the left side at all, and he didn't. Now the right side of his body would not stop moving. Like, he was constantly moving a leg or his arm, picking at things, trying to chew on things with his right, the right side of his mouth, and it was really, really odd, because it was, looking back now, like, I can see that was where his brain was malfunctioning, because there was so much swelling.
Yeah.
I know on Saturday, I believe it was Saturday, I went out to go and actually get a pop. And so I told Christopher, because Elijah had some family up there and I wanted to give them some space, I told Christopher, I said, Chris, Mom's going to go and get a pop. I'll be back in a few minutes. So I left. I went and I got a pop, and I gave them a little bit, and I come back in, and I said to Christopher, hey, bub, I was like, I'm back. If you can hear me, say hi, Mom. And it literally took every single ounce of strength that child had left in his body, but he belted out, hi, Mom. And those were the last words that we ever heard come out of his mouth, was hi, Mom. So from there, he got worse. He got worse. Saturday, his dad had to go home. His wife had to work the next morning, but at that point, we didn't really understand. Well, we understood, but we didn't think that we weren't going to be leaving the hospital without him. We thought, we're going to give him a few days, he'll get better. He's going to get better. So he left because he had to take care of his younger kids. He has younger kids. So I was sitting there with him. At this point, we had moved him from a regular room into the PICU because his levels were just kind of up and down, and they needed to make sure that they were keeping a good eye on him. So I was singing to him, actually. They were letting us play his favorite music, and if you don't know yet, Christopher's favorite artist was Tupac. So they were playing it very quietly for us because it's a little vulgar, and I was singing to him, and he was making a weird noise, and so I stopped for a minute, and I looked at him, and then all of a sudden he just started gasping for air. And I didn't know what was going on. I just started screaming for the nurses and the doctors to come in, and they all come rushing in, and basically his brain had swelled even more, and he was now unable to breathe on his own. So they intubated him and everything right in front of me. I was standing in the corner.
God.
And I watched them. I mean, he almost died right there. Because once they started to intubate him, he got so much fluid in his lungs that he could have drowned. So I tried calling Elijah. I tried calling my husband. It was literally like 4:00 in the morning. I tried calling, and nobody was answering. And then finally Elijah called me back, and I just told him, I said, you have to get here. You have to get here. Christopher is worse. And, I was by myself. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. I just watched them shove tubes down my son's throat, and now he wasn't breathing on his own. So Elijah got there, and the neurologist came in and said that they were too afraid to move him to go and get another CAT scan because of how unstable he was. But at that point, their assumption as to why he was getting worse and why now he wasn't breathing on his own was that there was more swelling in his brain. They now have the EEG machine on him, and they're monitoring his brain waves. And they said that, they needed to get another CAT scan done. There was an option that if his brain was swelling as much as they had anticipated seeing on the next CAT scan, that they could do a craniotomy, which would mean to cut a portion of his skull out and remove it so that it would relieve some of the pressure off of his brain. But that they were not sure that was even going to make much of a difference, because they were telling us that there was already an extensive amount of brain damage done to Christopher. So naturally we were like, do it. If it's 1%, if it'll help, just give me 1%. Like, if it's going to help at all, do it. I don't care what you have to do, just do it. Yeah. So they did. And, I think it took them like a half an hour or something, and they came back and they said that the swelling in his brain was so bad that he was comfortable to tell us that it was probably the worst case of ADEM that he had ever seen. And that he didn't know if that was going to do anything. That his brain damage was pretty extreme. So they would wait for 48 hours post-op in order to test his brain to see if he was brain dead. They also had to wean him off of all of his medication. I'm sorry.
No, you girl, too. Don't apologize to me.
So they started weaning him off of his medication. They and told us that we should start to notice movement, like not like his body like twitching or him trying to breathe on his own. And we didn't notice anything. Like, he didn't do any of those things. So on Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock, they came in for his brain death test. And they performed it. It took them 15 minutes. And they performed that test and brought myself, my husband, Christopher's dad, and his wife in, and told us that their test had confirmed that Christopher was brain dead. And that in 24 hours they would perform another one. And if any of you know, which you don't as well as I do, but Elijah, Christopher's dad, he's very curious. He likes to ask questions, even if it's a question you don't really want to know the answer to or don't know if you can handle hearing the truth. He likes to know, and if there's anything about him that I like, that would be that. He's very thorough. He asks a lot of questions. And, so we kind of picked them. We talked to them about, what are the chances, and we got their medical answers back. And damn do I wish I knew then what I know now, because I wouldn't have made the same choices that I made. But we made the choice that if we kept him alive and his quality of life was never the same, that we would be doing it for selfish reasons. Because he had suffered so much brain damage, there was no way that he was going to come back and play baseball and play football and be the kid that he's always been. And we don't want that for him. So we made the choice to unhook him from all of his machines. And after we did that, it took him 9 minutes to pass away. And we got to stand there, and we had our hands on his chest, and we got to feel his very last heartbeat. And they took the tubes out of his mouth so that I could kiss him. And then we had to leave the hospital without our son.
Whew. Take a minute, girl. Breathe. I can barely even. I'm just sitting here like, oh man. Oh, it's all good. Just breathe. I don't know how you went through what you went through, and it sounds like the decision you made for him as his mother, you made the correct decision for him, as his body seemed like it had suffered a lot. 9 minutes. I mean, you hear of kids. I mean, some people. I mean, it's literally days. I mean, it sounds like his body had just suffered so much.
Yeah, it had. It definitely had.
Oh, goodness.
And it's hard because you think, like, I made that choice. I made the choice to give them, both of them, that shot. And then I still have one child here, and one's gone. And it's like, then I feel guilty because my other son has to know that for the rest of his life as well. And he's 17, he'll be 18 soon. And what does he think? And does he blame me? And is he mad at me? Or, you know what I mean? Like, you think of all the things, all the choices that you made up until this point. For this boy, you taught him everything. You taught him how to love you. And now he's gone and you couldn't help him.
The saddest part to your story is that it's not uncommon. I think that's the hardest part, is that this is not a rarity. And they tell everybody, especially when you're going through it, that how rare this is and how you were just one of the unlucky ones. And and the saddest part is, I hear people on TV shows who are getting tattoos who are telling the same story about a family member, or them themselves was on death's doorstep and just was lucky enough by the grace of God to pull through and survive and suffer the same sort of things and have lifelong issues because of it. And they have no idea what even happened to them. They don't know. I literally listen to these things and I'm like, wow, that was the HPV vaccine. And I mean, it's so sad because that is the story. And your son's story literally should be what the HPV vaccine insert says on it. It should be, because this is the story that you keep hearing, and it's so hard to hear. It's so sad. I've had to mute myself a few times because I just have to catch my breath and just fight my tears and take off my glasses for a minute. And because Destiny, I am so sorry that you had to go through this, and I know that nothing I can say can help. I know that. But I mean, for you, you are a beautiful soul to be able to seriously. I don't know how how, woman, that you are out here and you are doing what you're doing, because my babies are injured and I find it hard to fight the battle. I cannot imagine if I had lost one of my babies to this. I mean, maybe it would ensue the fight bigger, but I think I might be in a fetal position in a ball somewhere.
Well, I have.
You know, I mean,
I have. But
I
have 2 of my own children that are affected, that are his blood siblings, and I have 2 stepchildren that loved him just as much as I did, or do. That I do. I still love him. That if I gave up now, what would they think? You know, I mean, they need me, all of them. Even his friends. Yeah. His friends need me. His best friend is my best friend's son. You know, I mean, I can't give up. If I give up now, what is that saying? I can't let his death mean absolutely nothing. He's too important.
That's right. And we need you. That's right. And we need you. Like, Destiny, your story, and I hate that this is not fiction. I hate that this is real. But your story in that room at ASIP in October, I mean, that room, you could hear a pin drop when you were talking. And I mean, it's hard to get those folks to pay attention. I believe me, I've been in that room by myself where I was the only one sitting in there on our side, and I'll tell you, it's hard to get those people to listen. And I was so proud of you and your husband, because that is not an easy story to stand up and tell in the lion's den of all places, to have to tell it. And I'm so proud of you. I hope I'll get, if you're going to be there in February, I look forward to getting to hug your neck. I didn't get to talk to you much last time. I know you guys had a lot going on, and I didn't want to get in your face or bother you too much. I just said hello and kind of went about, I didn't want to bother you. But, I mean, I have so much respect for you being out here and fighting in this fight with us. I mean, girl, oh my goodness, I'm telling you, your story. My body, my legs feel numb. My heart feels like it's in my stomach. Like, my hands are tingling. Like, I mean, I sat here. I'm serious. I sat here and I felt like I physically felt your story. Like, I mean, this is so hard. I mean, good Lord. Woo. I mean, I can't imagine what you went through. I can't imagine having to watch that go on. And your baby, I mean, that's your baby. I know how that, I mean, my daughter with autism, I mean, she, I think about every day, like, how scary it is for, like, and I worry about her. And, I mean, she doesn't understand fear. She doesn't understand danger. She doesn't understand so many things that are what keep you safe. And, you have to be so hyper vigilant 24/7 with her. Like, she'll walk up to the heater. You have to heat your home. We have those gas heaters. I can't afford electric heaters. It's $30 plus a day in electric versus gas heaters, She'll walk right up to it and stick her bare skin to it. She doesn't make a sound, doesn't say a word. You have no idea until you see it, and you're like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And and she'll dig at it, and she'll keep it from scabbing, and she'll keep it from healing, because she can't handle a scab. She can't handle Band-Aids. She can't handle bandaging. I mean, it is an insane life to have to live like this. And and I thought my world was hard. Excuse me. I've been suffering with some bronchitis lately. I can't imagine, as a mom, what you must go through. And I mean, I'm telling you, you are one strong woman, and I respect you. I revere you. I'm serious. Like, I'm so honored to talk to you today. It took me a while to even try to ask you. I didn't want to bother you, because I can't even imagine, I can't imagine. I don't know that I would, I hope that I would be doing what you're doing, but I just, like I said, I think for me, I don't know that I'm as strong. Maybe I am, but I'm telling you, girl, I feel like I might be just laying there curled up, just crying forever. Like, I can't even, like, that your son, I mean, oh my goodness.
When strong is the only option you have, you learn to embrace it. Yeah. You have to. I have to. I have to tell his story. I feel like if I don't tell him his story, I'm doing him an injustice.
That's right. And that's your battle cry being heard.
Yeah, and every other family that he could save, and I know he's saving lives. Yes. I know he is.
Yes. And Kathleen Barrett, if you're listening out there, we love you. And
we do love you.
Colton's mother, and she had a rough interview at one point, and I'm not going to mention who interviewed her, but she has not really wanted to talk and tell Colton's story since then. And I feel like she her story is very similar to yours, and it's so potent. And these children have suffered so much. And I just wanted to shout out to her and tell her we love her, and I'm so sorry. She's been through the same things. We have a bond in this movement that is unlike anything I have ever seen in my life. It is literally like Insta-family. And we may not always like each other. We may have those weird uncles that we don't really care for at Thanksgiving every now and then who get on our nerves, or the big mouse or whatever, But we all care about each other at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
That's
and
right.
so,
one goal.
And I hate that you have to be a part of this, but I'm glad that you're a part of it, if that makes sense.
I know. It makes so much sense. I know. And I agree with Kathleen. I absolutely adore her. And, even though we have one horrible thing in common, we both had beautiful boys with the exact same initials. So I always tell her I'm sending her love from my CB to her CB. So
and
I adore her.
You women, yes, and your sons, like if you think about this, and most of these people, Hannah, all these children, they are type A personalities. They are active people. They are people who don't just sit around vegging on, video games 24/7. They are people who get out there, who are taking life by the horns, who are literally doing and living and experiencing life. And then this is, and that's something I want to understand about this. I hope that maybe that aspect of it's looked into more by some of our researchers, is why is it attacking these really active type A children? Why is this? I mean, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm so curious. Like, was it, is a combination of them getting this and then being active and doing the things that they're used to doing? Because you hear a lot of these kids were doing their regular practices or whatever the case may be, and they continued to deteriorate as if their body was just like, it couldn't handle that extra exertion after these vaccines.
Right. And I will tell you, and I have not said this to anybody, and I'm not going to say any names, but I have someone looking over Christopher's autopsy and all of the things, someone extra, because we're going to take control of this. I don't care what I have to do until the day that I die. I will fight for my son, no matter what it takes. So I've got someone looking over everything. Again, double, triple checking it, and I will not stop until I make something happen. Something is going to happen.
Well, what's your advice to some of these mothers out here? Yeah. What's your advice to some of these mothers out here who have just noticed a reaction, or who have just gotten the HPV vaccine and didn't know this and are just learning this? What's your advice to mothers out there who may not really know this yet on the HPV vaccine, and what their doctors are telling them about protecting their future wives and, those sorts of things? What is your advice to those women out there?
Well, if they've already gotten it, my advice is to get them to a university, somewhere that understands vaccinations. Our local doctors, they just don't know enough. They're not educated enough on it. And I'm not trying to cut them down. It's not their fault. It's their educators that did them a disservice by not giving them the information that they needed. If they haven't received it yet, talk to your kids. Talk to them about practicing safe sex. Talk to them about staying with their doctor's appointments and getting their checkups they need to get. Be open with them. Be honest with them. Give them the tools to be successful. Meaning, there are condoms. There are things that they can do to protect themselves. There are doctor's appointments. There is everything that they need right at their fingertips. Just talk to them. I know a lot of people, it's an uncomfortable situation to talk about those kind of things with their children. But they're doing it. And if they're not now, they're going to be. So they need to have that education. They need to be educated, and just like we do. Education, knowledge is power. It's powerful. We can do so many things with it. So that's all they need to do, is just be knowledgeable about what they need to do to take care of themselves. They don't need a vaccination to do that. I wish I would have known that, but I didn't.
It's scary. It's scary, too, because states are starting to try to get around the parents. Like, I live in Alabama, and from what I recently found out, they have passed a law where 14 and over can now say, I want the vaccine whether my parents want me to have it or not, and they can sign for themselves to get it.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's disgraceful.
So what you just said is something every parent needs to listen to. Educate your children. there's I think it was 94% of women who do end up with cervical cancer. It was 94 to 99% of those women, their body naturally will help heal itself. I had cervical cancer. I had a leap to have cells removed, and then I ended up going. And they wanted to do a full hysterectomy, but then when I ended up almost dying, having my last daughter, I ended up having to have an emergency hysterectomy directly after birth anyway. So, all that got taken care of anyway. But I mean, it is. I mean, they told me, straight up, they didn't freak out about it. It wasn't like, oh my God, you're gonna die, when that was going on. It was like, okay, well, let's deal with this real quick and get you in here and take care of this. And I didn't know anything about it, and when I learned about it, it made me laugh because I'd never been a really active person. So I was like, well, we know that wasn't what happened, and my daughter always laughs because I'm like, they call me vanilla. I guess I'm a prude, but I probably don't look like I would be, but I really am. I'm a very religious woman. I don't know. I'm very different. So it just made me laugh when this is what I was going through because I was reading about it and I'm like, well, but
right.
My mother went through some things with cancer and now I'm going through some other bouts with things of that nature. And so that's why I said I wish there was a Make-A-Wish Foundation for adults because I want to meet Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That would be my Make-A-Wish.
Right.
I just want to meet RFK Jr. I just want to hug him.
Well, you will. I'm sure you will. You have to. If you're in this movement and he's in this movement, it'll happen.
Oh yeah, I don't give up too easy, and I tell you, my I'm so excited about ACEP this time. Are you going to be there this coming up meeting in a couple weeks?
Absolutely, myself, my
husband, I'm so excited.
And my son Jeremiah will be there. My son Jeremiah is speaking.
Oh, I'm so excited. My daughter's coming with me. She is 19, and she is not speaking, but she's coming with me, and she's excited to come for the first time, and I bought my 16-year-old son in the past. I'm telling you, your children, our children that are coming up in this millennia generation, these are going to be the change. I'm telling you, we are raising these children so wide awake, and they have technology at their fingertips. If you think about what Martin Luther and all those amazing people, John C. Lewis and Ralph Abernathy, all these people back in the day were able to accomplish without email, without ways to just hey, what's up? Everybody meet here. Everybody get the buses ready. Everybody do this. Have a bake sale. Do this. Let's all convene on this day at this place. And still got 250,000 people. They went town to town on a bus and got 250,000 people at Washington. We have we are so much more advanced in a time where I think that if we ourselves that are these adults right now aren't able to fully bring this change in full swing in effect, that they will pick up where we are. You know what I'm saying? I feel like they already. My daughter has already gone into activism and has already, kind of joined this movement. And even my 5-year-old hollers about CDC and Paul Offit and all kinds of stuff. They hear it so much it becomes just part of normal life to them,
That's right.
So, oh my goodness, you can be having a conversation about anything to do with ACEP or the CDC, and you'll hear Lily just from anywhere in the house. CDC, tell the truth. It's I love my children. Oh my goodness!
Right.
But and there's a rally on the 1st, the day after. I don't know if you're staying for that. I hope you are. I haven't really got to hang out with you and just spend a minute with you. So I'm looking forward to getting to see you. It's a big deal. I mean, we have a lot of people coming from all over the country. Where are you coming in from?
Illinois.
See what I mean? We've got people coming. I know from Connecticut, from Iowa, California. I know I'm coming from Alabama. I know I'm lucky because I'm right next door to Atlanta. But this is my vacation. ACEP, as much as it is boring, is also the nighttime. This is the only time I'm away from children. It's the only time that I'm not having to make product. It's the only time that it's not something else happening in my life. So I really look forward to it just for the fact of recharging the batteries, being around people. But when you're having a conversation, you don't feel like you're the smartest person in the room anymore. It's so nice to just be able to talk to people who know what the hell you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So what is your plan when it comes to all the billboard stuff with Christopher? Where is all that at? I know I saw there was a few billboards up. Where were those at? I didn't get to see the location. I just got to see a picture of them. I didn't realize what city they were in.
So the only one that's been up of Christopher has been at Atlanta. It was in Atlanta. LearnTheRisk.org. Brandy Vaughn is the one that got that one up for us. And we were kind of snubbed a little bit by our local company. I mean, I don't want to put them out there because I don't want to ruin anything that, we could have any other time just in case. But we were snubbed for a minute, but I think we've gotten that taken care of, and we will be getting one locally. It's going to take a little bit of time. I believe Brandy is going to help us with this one as well. But it's in the works. I know that there was a girl in Des Moines that had one up for her friend's baby. I can't remember her first name. I believe Ariana. She was 4 months old. She had her 4-month vaccines and passed away. But so they got one up in Des Moines. And so the same company that they were working with is going to let us put one up as well.
Awesome. I'm so glad. Yeah, we tried to get one here in Birmingham, and they wanted $5,000 for 8 days for the one that faced away from the highway, and they wanted like $8,000 for 5 days for the one that faced towards the highway. And I wish if I had the money, but if I had the money, I would have done it anyway because they're right in front of the mecca of all the children's hospitals. I mean, I'm serious. It's like all these little like highways, loop-de-loo-loo, right around that giant where all the signs are, and it's nothing but hospitals. And, I mean, we were there, and I wish we had seen these things. I wish someone had told us. And I'm telling you, the power of questions, like you were talking about your son's father, that's the way I was. I remember being in there, and the nurses are literally, there's 2 nurses on my Facebook right now who still work at Children's Hospital who went through this, watching what happened with my daughter, who became my friend, who said, we've never seen a mom come in here and ask so many questions and pretty much put these doctors in their places. And I had to. I mean, they were literally telling me, your daughter has no white blood cell count. Anything and everything is dangerous to her. And they would come in. I'm having to put on a mask and booties and all this stuff, and they're coming in, no mask, no booties, out of every room in this hospital, talking to all these other people, and then coming and telling me how contagious everything is to my child and how we shouldn't let anybody around her. And so the nurse was cracking up. Nurse was cracking up, because I looked at him and I said, you guys come in here 15 deep with no gear on, and you're worried about me every time I walk in here as her mother, whose germs she's always exposed to, who she was created by. And you're more worried about teaching these goons behind you than you are her health when you walk in here with this many people. And the nurse was just sitting there like straw on the floor. And I was like, here's my list of questions for the day. They're all up on the board for you. There's still a picture of them on my Facebook to this day. And this is before I knew anything about vaccines, what was in them, any of that. And on the board it says, if immunizations didn't cause this, what did? How can you send a child home without a diagnosis and try to treat her when you don't know what's going on? Like, there was just all these questions, and they were just, like, dumbfounded. It was crazy. We were in Children's for, like, 7 weeks, girl, and they did not want to have to deal with me anymore. There was one doctor, every time she hit the Dr. Casey, every time she hit her rotation, she tried to send us home. So I'd call the other doctor from the Center for Infectious Disease part of it, and I'd be like, hey, dude, she's trying to send Lily home. And he'd come over there and tell him she wasn't going nowhere, and we'd stay. Like, homie, don't play that. Y'all are going to fix this child. We ain't going home until somebody tells me what's up.
That's right.
Oh,
you have to be like that. You have to. Thankfully, we
and
were
it was
really
sad.
lucky. We were lucky. We had literally a phenomenal staff, like phenomenal staff. They never made us feel like, we were intruding, or how sometimes they can make you feel uncomfortable, like they have the education and you don't. They never did that to us. They were actually really amazing and still have been. Two of his nurses, we go and meet up with them and have lunch with them. One of the nurses went and had all these bracelets made for us because she watched Christopher's YouTube channel. And one of his things that he said in one of his YouTube channels, she said it just, for whatever reason, it just stuck with her. And so on the bracelets, she had that little saying put on these bracelets, and then it says Christopher Bunch on the other side. And he wanted to be famous. He wanted to be YouTube famous, and so that was her thing. She loves his YouTube channel. So we still talk to them all the time. I Snapchat with them almost every day, and that hospital
This is a YouTube generation, girl.
Oh my gosh, you gotta watch it. If you haven't seen his YouTube channel, it's just Christopher Bunch, and it'll show you the type of kid he was. It'll show you how compassionate that he was to just everyone. He was such a good brother. Like, his little sisters, he would let them do his hair. He would let them put makeup on him. I mean, he was just such a good soul. His soul was beautiful.
Well, I think he gets it from his mama.
Oh, thank you. The only reason I am who I am today is because of my kids. That kid, although he's not here and I only got 14 years with him, after he wasn't here anymore, I realized what he really did do for me. He made me a better person. I think he made everybody that he came across a better person. He was just a great kid. And in kindergarten, they had to merge two classes together. They had like a split. It was like kids that had, that were in special needs classes and the regular, quote unquote, regular class. They merged them together because a teacher went on maternity leave. They had one little boy, I remember, in there that they could never get to calm down. It was just too much for him. There was too many people in there, too many kids, too much going on. My son, I got a phone call from the principal. I just have to give you a pat on the back for Christopher. And I was like, well, what happened? And she goes, we were in class today, and so-and-so had an outburst, and we couldn't get him to calm down. And Christopher pulled up a carpet next to him, a carpet square, and said, come on, so-and-so, do you want to sit next to me on my carpet? And then said, when we go to do our ABCs, I'll let you use my pencil. And it just calmed the kid down, and he, and she goes, I just have to let you know that there is not another kid in the school that would have ever known how to do that, and it wouldn't matter what age they were. She's like, but Christopher did. And the kid listened to him, and he sat next to him, and he paid attention because Christopher was, and he took the time to be his friend. And that is the person that kid, that's who he was.
Yeah.
That's who he was.
That's amazing. We need more of him. And I'm telling you, I think people like Christopher, he was here he's an earth angel. He was here for a period of time, and his story is here to, he literally, it is, to me, his story will live on forever. It will save lives forever. And it is very tragic, but it is also something that, the fact that, oh my goodness, I can't imagine how many lives it has already saved. I know that for me, I grew up with a lot of people in the children's home, and a lot of them, because of the HPV vaccine, have started researching vaccinations because a lot of them have children who are getting up to that age now. And so after showing them all these things and them hearing these stories, like listening today to your story, this really does help show them, this is no joke, and this is something that is so serious. And if you really don't know, because you are brainwashed not to look for it to be a vaccine, you really are. From the start of your life, you are brainwashed, and you just never believe that there could be anything fallible about a vaccine. And it's like God Almighty himself must have made these things because they are infallible to the human man's mind. And, but really, that's kind of how we see it, and it's so crazy, right? And
right.
And so you no matter what, your child could get one, and within 24 hours something happens, and parents just don't know. Even for us, when Lily's happened, I was still in shock. It took a friend of mine who was actually an English Mastiff breeder. That's how we met, because I was as well. And he said, when I mentioned immunizations, and I said, the only thing that has changed in my child's life was I took her in for thrush, and they gave her 6 vaccines, 2 were triples. I said, that's all that happened. And she's like on death's doorstep. She lost all her color. She's completely pale. Her white blood cell count for neutrophils was 0. Her body had turned on itself and was attacking its main white blood cell. And it was literally like she was going septic. Her fevers were getting 106.2 was as high as we got at one point in the hospital. I mean, it was just insane. And a 26 days straight of fever, by the way. And they the whole time were telling us to give her the Tylenol and Motrin every 2 to 4 hours instead of every 4 to 6 to keep it under control. And her fever still would not break. Showers with me. There's pictures of her soaking wet hair in a towel, from back then, like just showers after showers after showers, trying to bring her temp down for a minute just to make her comfortable. She couldn't even lift her own arms anymore. She could barely open her eyes to look at me. She didn't even fight a rectal temperature. And they still were sending us home. And I told them, I was like, y'all send me home and she's going to die. Like, we're not leaving. And that's when they finally did, like, 13 vials of blood and admitted her. Well, they didn't even admit her then. They still tried to send us home and then said, no, y'all come back. And you were right to fight for her. Like, all kinds of stuff's abnormal. Y'all need to get here now. And it was, like, really, like, I mean, it was just insane to me that out of all these other ERs, hospitals, nobody wanted to listen. Nobody cared. Like, they could see her neutrophil level. They were literally doing counts, and it was on the paperwork that I paid to, I went in and bought all her records. And it says on there every time, 0, 0, 0. Not one of those doctors told us that. And that's dangerous in itself. Like, she had no immune system, and nobody thought to say, hey, you might want to keep her away from everyone and everything for a minute because she is dramatically compromised. Not a word. I had to figure it out on my own by researching everything in her records. Like, how sad is that?
That's horrible.
I mean, I can't even imagine for you, like, when you go back and you go through what happened to your son in your head and all the different things. Like, all of us as parents, we always go through that, what I wish I would have done, what I wish I would have known. And I think that for us, we once we get past that point, we make it to that point of, all right, you know what, it's time to kick some ass and it's time to do something about this. And I think that is where it's hard, but I don't know. I'm so proud to know you. I'm so like I told you earlier, I'm so sad that you have to be in this movement, but I'm glad that you're here and you are a force and a beautiful one at that. I mean, I was just, you guys, your presence, I was just so glad to see you when you showed up in October. I'm telling you, like, those are the kind of things that they need to hear. They don't believe the injury even exists, Destiny. Those people in that room, you see their facial expressions. And when you tell them what happened to your son, it's not even like it was a little child who can't tell you what's going on. I mean, you're sitting there telling them about a teenage boy who went from completely fine and healthy and living his life to dying. And you, I mean, you could, I mean, I always pay attention to that room. And those faces they were dropping. There was hands going up over mouths, like I mean, you were potent in that room. And so I'm just so thankful for you, excuse me, and that you're willing to, to get up and tell his story. It really does. He will live on forever in so many ways, and definitely in our hearts out here. I've thought about him so much, and just what you've been through. He's such a beautiful young man. I have children. I have a 16-year-old son. I have a 13-year-old son. I can definitely imagine myself in your shoes. And, I mean, goodness gracious, Mama.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I do. And as much as I don't want to be a part of this, we're going to make a difference. So it makes me proud to know that my son's name, my son's voice, everything about him will literally live on forever. We're not stopping.
Well, the Washington Post is paying attention. I thought that was kind of funny. I got a phone call about a week ago from Washington Post they're going to write a story about ASIP, and they wanted to know why we're going. They wanted to know what are we doing there, and are we just going to tell our personal stories, or what is our goal? And
wow.
So it should be, it should be interesting to see what they have to say about us. I guess that hopefully they'll write it when time gets closer. And if anything, whether they write it negative or positive, any press is good press, I suppose. At least people know we're getting out here. I mean, Washington definitely made us in print this past week. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, it was so amazing to see, Destiny. We had folks on the same day gathering in Washington and Colorado, and that was just a beautiful thing to me.
Absolutely,
beautiful.
It was. Yes, it was.
You know, and we've got a lot more people who are we're getting less afraid, and that is what really counts, guys. That is something I'm always preaching, is they only have your power if you give it to them. And that is the truth. Like when you fear them, I've had people say, I made my profile private. I don't make vaccine posts because I'm afraid. They'll take my kids. I don't do this. I don't do that. The more you live in fear, the more those kind of things seem to come to your door. It's like you draw what you're afraid of. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm out here. I'm not afraid of crap. Like, and I mean it. Like, I ain't afraid of nothing. Yeah, I can see it in you. Like I mean, it's the same thing. Like it's like, you know what? Bring it. I mean, seriously. Like, it's, you know, you've been through so much. It's like, really, what else have you got for me at this point?
Yeah.
You know, like
I haven't felt.
Yeah.
What could you do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I know for you, I don't think as a mother there is a deeper pain you could feel. I know that. I mean, I can't imagine there could be a deeper pain. I know there can't be. I mean, there's no way there could be a deeper pain. And you are a very beautiful and graceful woman, and you are seriously just handing it out there to them. And I, you know, keep doing that and keep using that as your source of strength, because I have a feeling that it empowers you to keep going every day. I know it's hard. I know it is, and I'm sure there's days where you really just don't want to get out of bed, because that's how humans are, and pain sucks. But just remember that you've got a lot of people out here who are very, very proud of you and looking up to you, and that you keep inspired. You inspire me, and you really do, and you really do, because I have those days where I'm like, oh, man, this is insane, and how do we even just keep doing this? And then it's like, there are people like you out there who are doing what you're doing, and it's like, if you can do it, I know I can definitely do it, because my pain level's been crazy in life, but like I said, there's just no greater pain than where you've been, and I'm proud of you for handling it with so much grace, and doing what you need to do to make sure that other people don't have to suffer. So, oh my goodness, I want for people out there who also, like, what were the we covered this a little bit, but if you don't mind going in more depth, what was the first start of reactions you started noticing from the vaccine? Was it mainly headaches? I know a lot of people have said headache was kind of the first thing they noticed, and maybe lethargy seems to be one of the major symptoms after this type of with ADEM. It's just wanting to sleep and sleep and sleep.
Yeah. He slept Monday night when he got off of football practice. He slept from about 6:30 until 2:30 Tuesday afternoon. Got up, went to practice, came home, was home by 5:30, was in bed by 6:30, and slept from 6:30 Tuesday night until 7 o'clock Wednesday night when I got home from work and dropping my daughter off. And he slept the entire time. And then once we were in the hospital, that's all he did was sleep. I mean, he's never. And I won't even call it sleeping. At that point, his brain was so damaged that his brain wasn't giving the signals, and you know what I mean. He just wasn't right after that.
Yeah.
He wasn't himself. But it was his headache was first, and then he had a sore throat. And then it got to the point to where, like, he was like, it hurt, my head is really, really hurting. And I actually still have the text messages, and I can't look at them because he was sending me text messages while I was at work. And in a couple of them, he didn't even spell things correctly. So, but I just, at that point I was like, oh, well, he just, misspelled something. It happens. Predictive text or, something like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't think anything of it. And he just, he got up and went to practice, and it was the headache and the sore throat and then the sleeping, constantly wanting to sleep. And not waking up, not talking. While he's sleeping, he's just like making like grunting noises. And, I would like to possibly pick a couple of his friends' brains that, were playing football with him that day. Was he talking? How was he? I haven't even done that yet.
Right.
Just because it's just
how
been.
How was he interacting?
How was he? Was he talking? Was he laughing? Was he doing anything? Like, what was he doing? maybe that'll be my next step. Maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, and I'm sad that the coaches didn't notice. The coaches didn't notice a difference and react and maybe get him somewhere, because I mean it sounds
even,
like
from the. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounds like from the minute he got to practice, he wasn't feeling well, and so they should have at least called a parent and said, "Hey, somebody may want to come pick him up," instead of making him sit there and suffer through all of that.
Well, that's what I thought. I'm like, even if they, they would have just said to me, "Hey, we just wanted to let you know that he hasn't been feeling the greatest. He's been throwing up. He's been saying he feels like he's going to pass out." Then maybe I would have taken him sooner than I did. Had I known that from day one that's how he was reacting and at football practice, I wouldn't have just thought, he's probably just got a headache, or he's got this, or he's got that. I would have actually taken him to the doctor sooner than I did. But it wouldn't have
because
mattered.
how often do you really think it's something like that? I mean, really and truly, usually it's a little bug, or it's a cold, or it's bronchitis, or it's whatever that's going to come, and it's going to take you down for a few days, and then you're going to get back up. I mean, that's what you see. That's what's common. So, I mean, I completely get where you're coming from. Nothing in your head at that point was like, this child is, like, severely, like, going through something. I mean, I mean, that's...
And now I will say, after we got the autopsy results back, they did change his diagnosis, ADEM, to AHL, which is acute hemorrhagic, can't pronounce the last word, Lucan something, but which is just a severe case of ADEM. And it is universally fatal. Once you go from just having like the diagnosis of ADEM into AHL, it's fatal. You do not survive.
Yeah, that doesn't sound. I'm looking it up right now. Oh, yeah, good Lord.
So
it doesn't look so great.
No, and the thing is that, I've thought over 100 times, well, what if I would have known? Like, what if they would have told me and I would have gotten him in sooner and I would have this and I would have that? Like, it wouldn't have mattered, because at that point, it was already, the strain of AHL was already there from day one. So from day one, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered. This was fatal for him. This was God's plan, I guess, is what everybody keeps saying to me. I personally, no, it wasn't. No, for me, it wasn't.
That's man. That's man. I know what you mean. I have people who tell me my daughter's autism was God's plan, and I'm like, I don't think so, because I talk to God on a daily basis, and I don't know that God. My God I created a beautiful child because God allowed me and my husband to do that. Man injected me and messed my child up. You know what I'm saying? One, they injected her, but for the other, I was pregnant. So, I mean, I know what happened here. You know what happened here, and this ain't got nothing to do with God. God allows man to make their own free will, and we made that under miseducation. We made that because we were misinformed, and so really it wasn't free will. It was misinformed will.
Right. Absolutely.
It is crazy how, and people trying to normalize things or how that always bothers me. And also seeing the doctors who know and don't do anything about it, or like, my doctor's 64 years old. He's a general practitioner, and now he knows what happened to my children, but he's still one of those doctors who believes that this only happens to 1 in a million, so he still vaccinates. But he does believe in informed consent. He does believe in offering insert, all those kind of things. So, but it is crazy to me that the first thing he said to me when I told him what happened to he said he felt like he stepped in front of a fire hydrant when he met me. But other than that, he said that, he said that, he said, do no harm, but he said it in French. And he said, most doctors do not live by this, but I'll tell you right now, I don't care about a kickback, and I will not force you to vaccinate your children. And he said the saddest part is us old general practitioners who were about to retire have to stay now, because none of you mothers can take your children to the pediatricians anymore because they care more about a kickback than they do about individual health.
So true. It's so true.
And it's so sad. I told him when he retires, I want an exclusive interview.
That's right.
Oh my goodness! I told him don't retire for a while though because we need him. But I mean, it is crazy. And every time I go in, I love having a doctor like this. I pray this for everyone because he knows me so well now. When I go in, and I rarely will go for myself, but if I do, it's usually something pretty serious. And I was in there about 8 months ago, and he said, I know you're not going to want to take anything or do anything, and I know how you are about medication, but just listen to me and hear me out. You know, it's like he already knows this is going to be a long journey to get from point A to point B with me, but he's willing to try.
That's right.
And my it's crazy. In my daughter's paperwork from her evaluation, it literally says that doctors will have to meet this mother where she is because she has educated herself. It doesn't say I'm miseducated. It says that I've educated myself. I was like, well, hey, cool. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks for letting them know ahead of time. Thanks for letting them know before I get there.
Thanks for giving me credit.
Mhm. Oh my goodness. I'm telling you, I know that it is hard for you, but I think that you're just going to keep getting stronger and stronger. And I think your son is literally the wings on your back carrying you through this. And he was so handsome. And I'm telling you, it's so the things you've talked about him, just a little bit you've said about him, his personality. I think him and my teenage daughter would have been friends if they would have met. So, yeah, I mean, even just seeing him, I think him and Lawlin would have been buddies. You know, it's a trip that, you know, I mean, like I said, I can relate in one way because I have children that age and whatever, but I can't in the way of I've never had such a severe loss, and I pray that I never do. As a parent of a daughter with severe special needs, it's never going to be something I don't worry about, or it's never going to be a reason why it's hard for me to close my eyes and go to sleep. But, we all, it's just life. But, I mean, I hope that people have heard your story today and that their takeaway is research everything, guys. Read everything. And don't let them convince you that this is something that you need to do for your son's future wife. This vaccine wasn't even tested in boys like this, and in this age range. It was tested on females and in a whole different age range, and then they just say who's going to get it, and we'll just base it on whatever that study was, and that study was really not a study because there's no placebo. It's just based on the old vaccine versus this vaccine or this antigen or this, whatever. I mean, it's, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's never really a real study if you go read this stuff, and it's mind-blowing that they get away with it. And you saw this sitting at ACIP. This is why I'm so happy to talk to you, because you've been in there and you've seen how blatantly they're just, I mean, I hate to say they're morons, but, I mean, it's so blatant. They chuckle in unison, and it's always about those things that for us we cringe inside when they say them, because it's like, did y'all really just say that? Like, did that really just happen? Like, I don't know if you heard February's where they said the new antigen vaccine that's not tested in other countries, and they said, well, do we give this on the schedule? And they said, yeah, it's just assumed that you always give a new vaccine that we bring out on the schedule and just put it in a different limb. Like, that limb is not attached to the body and the same system. I mean, God, how smart do you have to be to understand that this arm is still attached to the body that this arm is attached to? I can't, I mean, I'm sitting in that room on the front row, and the front of my computer, I have my laptop out, and the front of it's facing them, and in huge letters it says, y'all need science. I couldn't take any more. Oh, my goodness. I took it out of the case and opened it up and was just sitting there facing everybody with it like, I mean, it's like y'all really just have no clue what is going on right now. Like, I mean, it is mind-blowing. I mean, oh, my goodness. Like I said, I'm so excited for this time. I'm so glad you're going to be there. I'm so excited. So, from what I've heard, over 300 and something are showing up for the actual, like, who are allowed to come inside, who are registered. And then supposedly, I don't know, but last time I talked to my buddy Leanne, she said over 600 were planning to be a part of the actual event somehow. I don't know if they plan on being outside, but I know there's also a rally on the 1st. I wish the rally was on the 27th, first day of ACIP. I feel like it would have been much more potent for them to have to see everybody outside and inside, but maybe next time. But I feel, just because I feel like this one's going to be right after everybody, most people have to go home. But, I'm glad that we'll be out there nonetheless, and hopefully last time we had a chopper flying overhead, but it didn't have any kind of marking on it. It was just a black chopper, and it hovered over us out there, going over the square we were walking. It was just going over us for like half an hour, and a lot of us made videotape of it. But they never was any coverage made, covered. Nothing came up on the news about it, nothing like that. So who knows who they were? But it's just crazy to see. Like it's like being in a different realm when you are a part of these kind of things. It's so crazy. And then if you go back and you learn about the civil rights movement. And you learn about, there's so many other movements and so many other things that have come before. And if you just start reading about those things, you really realize, we are capable of doing this, everybody. We are capable of bringing this change about. And people just don't get discouraged. I have so many people are like, I've been in this too long, and I'm just too pissed, and I'm too tired, and I'm whatever. We are going to win this. There is no other option. Truth is on our side. Science is on our side. God is on our side. We've got this. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't get discouraged out there, everybody. Keep your hopes up, and remember that even if you're down today, hopefully you'll be up tomorrow. And if you're having such a down day that you don't feel like continuing, then message me and I'll try to pick you up. But we're all out here to try to lift each other up and to try to help each other through. And don't ever feel like you have to suffer through this stuff alone, because I do feel like a lot of people really do feel that way. And those hard nights you're sitting there, you're crying, or whatever, people just feel so by themselves. Don't feel like that, because there are people out here who love you and care about you. And we're all here together. We're all in this together. We've all suffered in some way because of this. And so just remember that. I hate when people feel bad themselves.
And it's hard when you get on, for me, for instance, I had my first, social media, I think it was last week. And, that's hard. That I never knew, because, like you said, I keep pretty reserved. I don't like to put myself out there. And not that I'm not quietly doing what I want to do, but I'm just, and I'll just say it out loud, I'm just not as opinionated as Christopher's dad is. He is all over the place. I'm more behind the scenes. I'm secretly getting you, and you just don't know it yet.
Right. You're strategizing.
That's right. I have a plan, and that's what I'm doing. Slowly but surely, I'm reaching the people that I feel I need to reach to get what I need accomplished. And I just, a mother was being attacked that had posted a picture of, I think her child had gotten bit by a dog or something, and then it went into this whole thing of her not vaccinating. And so I had put my 2 cents into it, which I don't normally do, and oh my Lord, did they get me for a good 3 hours. And by the end of it, I was crying, and my husband was literally taking my phone from my hands and telling me you can't, I can't watch you be talked to like that. I don't like it. I don't like to see you upset like this. So he took my phone. He was like, you're done for a while. You don't need to be continuing this mess. So I stopped. But, every once in a while they'll still comment on that same thread or a different thread. But I feel like it's after you get the first one out of the way, then you're totally pumped for the next one. You're like, oh, now I know what I'm going to say. Now I know how I'm going to
dust your shoulders off. Bring it on.
Yeah, so I have been a little more vocal the last few weeks. I've been commenting on more things because I felt I'm okay, I got that first one out of the way. I'm good to go. I got this. Yeah. So,
don't let anybody make you feel any certain way, girl. Don't ever let anybody change how you feel, your action or your reaction. Be you and be true to who you are. And seriously, I try to. I don't know if you see me out here, but I'm one of those ones. I'm always trying to preach to lead with love, and to just remember that even though they are our enemies, it is our job to love them. We don't have to like them. We can hate what they're doing, and we can hate their mechanisms, but we do have to love them. We don't have to like them, but there is a bigger picture here that is humanity, and we have got to get to where we all unite for that bigger picture. And I think that is how we're going to sway the other side. Our science speaks for itself. Once you have science, and then the fact of it is really the case of humanity and harming and oh my goodness, the amount of babies that you see. I know you see it now. It's every day. It's every day you see these stories. Oh, right. It's heartbreaking. Because we know, and I'm telling you, when I'm when I'm in the barbershop, when I'm wherever, like anywhere I'm going, I'm getting something done. Like I'll go to the barbershop ladies. I go to the African American men to get my hair done because they know how to do it right.
Hey, I'm a hairstylist. I'm a hairstylist.
Oh, well, dang, I need to well, hey, I'll see you, girl. I'll see you soon. No. But I had him last time. You saw me at ASIP, girl. I had that guy. He put End Autism Now, shaved it into my head. It was like, yes, I love you.
Right. Yeah, my best friend's a barber, so.
I love it. Like, I'm telling you, I'm in there, and I'm already, like, for me, it's the one time I feel like I guess I'm more minority in my lifetime, during my day. And I love it. I love talking about vaccines. I love talking about what they're doing to us. And I love, like, you know what I'm saying? And it was so hilarious, girl. I'm sitting in there, and the Trump alert goes off during one of my haircuts. And the whole barbershop goes up, and everybody's cutting up, and I'm just sitting there laughing to myself. It's like, I couldn't have been anywhere better for this moment, Oh, man. It was too good. My daughter was laughing so hard. It was like, I mean, I wish I had a camera on. It was just too good. Some of the things that the guys were saying and the way they were, it was like, oh man, it was just it was like a movie. It was like being in a movie. But I mean, these guys already know. I was talking about William Thompson. I was talking about the CDC with, the whistleblower. I was talking about, African American people being more affected. All these things. These guys were like, honey, the African American people have known vaccines are bad for a long time. He's like, these are just the white man's one more way of control, one more way of this. And I was like, well, it's nice to know that. I mean, but so many people are awake, and you just don't. I mean, you don't realize, you don't talk about it because you don't know at that point. And it's just so much fun to kind of get out in public and kind of when you're trying to spread awareness. It's always fun to find those people who already know and just. It's kind of shocking to me, and it's just a lot. It means a lot to me, too, because I feel like you can start getting more people involved. I'm trying to get the NAACP involved. I want them to start coming to ASIP. I want their president to show up. Absolutely. Explain to him what's going on, everybody.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. I think we're gonna change the world, and it's just going to take. I don't think it's even going to take that much more time. Seeing there's so many people who are hitting it from the political standpoint and going after the bills that are being created against our exemptions and things like that. And you've got the other people who are out here who are informing the parents who don't know yet and who are still misguided and have no idea. And you've got, people out there who are doing a little bit of everything. And I mean, it just seems like everybody kind of has their own brand of activism and is doing their own thing. And it just all beautifully comes together to form this amazing movement we are a part of. And if I hope that we all find ways to inspire each other and just keep going. I know for me, I have bad days and I get kind of down, and I'm going through a lot with my health and everything else. And I always just think, you know what, it could always be worse. So keep your head up and keep smiling because it could always be worse.
Mhm. Thank you for that one.
Oh my goodness. No, I want to tell you also, if you ever need my platform for any reason, I am here. If you just putting that out there for you. If you ever have anything you need to share that's happening locally or rally some troops, let me know. I am always out here and willing to help. And we've got a lot of things going on now, so it's so amazing. There is a coalition or group or organization in every state but 2 now in America. So we're doing something right.
I was just going to say, I was approached, I guess, by a couple of women, and I'm going to help with a conference that we're going to have in Illinois. It's going to be in March. I don't know details just yet. We're getting together this weekend to drum up some ideas and some details, but it is the Illinois Coalition for Informed Consent. And then I'm also going to, that one, actually, I lied. Sorry. That one was not the Illinois. This one was actually Iowa. So it's Health Freedom Iowa is who I'm doing that with. And then I'm also going to partner up with some of the ladies from the Illinois Coalition of Informed Consent. But we are going to be doing something in March for Iowa.
That is amazing. You know, there's a lot of injury in Illinois. When we first started making our detox for my kids, we didn't offer it to people, like up the public for a while, but people kept requesting. We put it out there, and we had a giant map up on the wall of America. And whatever city that we would send them to, we would put a pin in the calendar the map. We just wanted to see where it was all going and where the concentrated areas of injury were and things of that nature. And it was so interesting. Illinois, I'm telling you, I never sold more product of detox than I did to Illinois. So I don't know what's going on in Illinois, but I'm telling you, it was like that state was so full of pins you couldn't put any more pins in for the cities anymore. It was very sad. It's like, holy smokes, man.
I definitely know. I spoke with Barbara Lowe Fisher, and she told me she would love to see what I could do for Illinois. So, like I said, slowly but surely, I'm working my way around, and I'm meeting people and talking to people. I can tell you one thing. I do know that Bobby Kennedy Jr. knows Christopher's case. And hopefully I'll be meeting him sooner than later. So, like I said, slowly but surely, and I am a lot quieter than anyone else, but I get the job done, and I will.
Oh, I believe it. I think we're all out here, and I think each of our separate missions, like I said, it all comes together to make the big picture, and they're afraid of us. They really are. They see us out here. They do. And after Washington's everybody out there getting out there showing that display, Colorado, I know ASIP's going to be huge. And I swear, I love it because ASIP's coming off the back of what happened in Washington. And right. Last ASIP came off the back of what happened in California with the Justice Rally. And right. People are so amped up that it's such a bigger experience, so I don't know how else to describe it, but their batteries have been charged by something right before the ASIP, and I love that because ASIP, you have got to be on point. You've got to be ready. ASIP is like nothing else. It really is David and Goliath. And when you get in there, it's overwhelming, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of a scary experience. It's hard.
And you know what's crazy though, because like when we came in October, to me, like I really wasn't even sure like what to expect because I'd never done it before, and we were so deep in grieving at that point that I don't think I had any fear. I think I was ready to stand up and say what I said, and my last sentence it replays in my head all the time. On October 11th, 2011, I can't remember what year now. You voted to offer this vaccine to boys. How does it feel knowing that your vote killed my son? Like, I just couldn't wait to say that sentence the whole time I was talking.
You gave me goosebumps both times.
So, I mean, at that point, I don't think that I really realized how huge it was that I was there being able to speak to them. And now I'm taking my 17-year-old son, and he is, he's preparing his speech, and I'm trying to stress the importance of his goal, the result that you want, like what you want them to hear. You have to choose wisely because you only have, 3 minutes?
3 minutes. 3
minutes, and you are going to be a powerful voice in that room.
That's right. So, I'm so proud of him. We'll tell him we are proud of him out here, and we appreciate him, and let him know that. Build that confidence up because we really need more children like him to speak up about their siblings. My daughter, I wish she had registered to comment. She didn't register to comment in time. She registered me to comment, but not herself. And if anything, I think she's never been before. She kind of wants to see how it goes and test the waters. I went several times before I ever spoke. And I've only spoke once, and I feel like I said my bulk of what I needed to say, and I took them from the start to the finish of what happened. Like, here we go. And I didn't look at a clock, and from what I saw, I went 4 minutes and 6 seconds, but there was nobody behind me, so they just let me talk. They didn't try to stop me or anything. Everybody said they were afraid to try to stop you. But they just let me say what I needed to say, I guess. And, I don't think they really knew how to take me. Like, each time I went, like the first time I went, I had on my Autism Mom shirt. It had, like, the tough lady with her fist, and it said, I'm that tattooed Autism Mom everybody warned you about. And then I went I went incognito before that, but that was the first time I'd wore like an actual shirt saying who I was, what side I was on or whatever, and my hair was down past my hiney. So then the next time they see me, I've got neon blue, chopped off hair and my resist shirt. I'm ready. I'm like, okay, I'm talking today. I'm ready to do this, because I had sat there and heard that crap long enough. It was like everything in my soul, and I was scared to death up until the moment I got up to the mic. I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to do it anymore. Like, I want to leave. I'm going to mess it up for everybody. And you know how you get panicked. And my son looked at me. He's like, Mom, it's going to be okay. You're next. Like, you can't go anywhere. You're on the front row. You might as well just chill, And it was just a real experience for sure. But I didn't have a clue what I was going to say. I just got up there and I prayed before we got there God would help me, and He did. And I can't believe that every day that is still bouncing around the internet. That blows my mind. Literally, thousands of views and shares, and it's like I don't know how it's still going around, but people found inspiration in it because a lot of people who are tattooed or whatever they feel like makes them a different person or a misfit or whatever it may be, they were reaching out to me saying I was too afraid to get up there. I thought people would think I was strange or this or that or the other, and they found like that they weren't as afraid to do that anymore. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty awesome. At least I was able to make people less afraid to get up and speak out.
Absolutely.
And it's scary, but it's kind of a lot of fun to be able to talk in their faces, and they have to just sit there and listen. It's nice. It's nice to have that power for the minute to finally have the floor to say to them what you need to say.
Right. That is true.
Very, very healing, I guess. To me, it was anyway. I when I drove home after speaking, I felt like I had a sense of a little bit of a healing. Like I felt a little bit was lifted by being able to say it to them.
I agree.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm definitely going to come give you a giant hug. So I'll be the crazy looking woman with all the tattoos and the partially shaved head and probably neon plum colored hair. So you can't miss me. Leave a lasting impression, right? You want to make sure they knew you were in the room.
That's right. Nothing wrong with that.
Oh my goodness. Oh man. Well, girl, I hope you have an amazing Monday, and thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for telling your story, and keep telling your story, and, don't listen to those haters out there, and when you get in those, if anybody says something negative, girl, as wonderful Jesus says, turn around and walk away, leave the dust on your heels behind you. Like, don't listen to that stuff. Don't. You know what? You don't need that. You've been through enough, and you know who you are, how strong you are, and that is all that matters.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and thank you for having me. I love it. I love being able to do this and hopefully reach people that I haven't spoke to yet.
I agree, and we have thousands of listeners each week, and we also end up with a lot of new people. Because of the platform we're through has so many different, types of topics that run through here. So many people will hear your story who have never even heard about vaccine injury or maybe don't even know what HPV vaccine is yet. So that is the amazing part of you. Be reaching a new audience as well through our show. So I always love that too. We always get so many messages saying first time listener and didn't even know this was possible. And it's like, so glad that they get that information from us. So thank you so much for being willing to share your story.
Absolutely.
All right. And I will see you in just a short few weeks and give you a big old hug. And you take care of yourself. If you ever have a rough night or you just have a day where you call me or talk to me, buddy, I am here.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, girl. You have an amazing Monday.
Thank you. You too.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
My goodness, you guys. Bye. What a heavy story. What a heavy story. This is something that is not rare. It is something that happens so often. And so many people think that it's 1 in a million. They really do. This is something that you're brainwashed to believe and hear. And you really do think this is it's 1 in a million. I thought that when my daughter was injured, and I still began my activism, but I didn't start on the level until I realized, oh my goodness, this is not rare. This is happening to so many people. And, we're not 1 in a million. We're not we have a responsibility here. When you know the truth and when you see something firsthand, to me anyway, I feel like you have a responsibility to share that with other people and to help them avoid it if you possibly can. And to see mothers like Destiny, it's hard out here. This is her injury and what she's gone through. How hard must that be? I mean, just think about that for a minute. You know it's hard. You know what I'm talking about. This is insane. This was a young, healthy teenage boy who was just living his life, looking forward to prom, looking forward to what's coming next after that, looking forward to graduation, starting his own life, And then what happens? A vaccine not only impairs his life, but takes his life away, gone forever. That is what this show is about, Forsaken Generation. The intro to my show, my daughter says, too many forsaken lay in their graves. Christopher is one of those, and this is just so sad because he didn't have to be. But these doctors aren't telling these parents the truth, and they're definitely not giving them informed consent. And I know for a fact if his mother had known what was in that vaccine and what the possible risks were of that vaccination, there's no way she would have chosen that for her son. But that's the problem, is these doctors don't read these inserts, sadly enough. These doctors aren't fully informed. So how can a doctor who's not fully informed and informed, it just doesn't make any sense. This is how it is, and it's got to change. We've got to do better. We've got to hold them to a higher standard. If you think about how many people are dying in hospitals, literally just dying in hospitals from medical malpractice, from mistakes, and they try to cover them up. I mean, are you kidding me? They try to cover them up. Can you imagine why the people like us who know what's going on, we are afraid of hospitals. We avoid hospitals. People think hospitals where you go when you're in danger. Oh, no, I'm coming home. I'll deal with I'll deal with it myself. You just don't know. And the sad part is if you're an organ donor, you're worth way more to them dead than you are alive. You couldn't offer me enough to be an organ donor, not because I'm a butthole, but because I know that they will end your life. And the process of being an organ donor, that's probably the scariest thing I've ever heard in my life. You definitely couldn't convince me on that one. There's just so many things you really do have to think about, and there's pollution and poisons coming from every direction. So just please be aware of that. Research everything, read everything, and read everything on every side. Don't be biased. Don't be one-sided. Make sure that you read everything. You can't really have an argument until you know the full argument from both sides. You can't really, I don't know, that's just the way I see it anyway. I don't know how you can disagree if you don't know what you're disagreeing with. So make sure that you're paying attention to everything around you. And I will see you guys at ASIP. Let's see, what is today? Today is the 11th. I will see you guys in about 2 weeks and 2 days if you're coming to ASIP, and I can't wait. So, excuse me. If you're listening to the show, please come up and give me a big old hug. You can't miss me. I'm sure you'll recognize me when you see me. So just come up and say hello to me at least. I love all of you. You are all my family, and I cannot wait to see you and meet you and get together and show these people that I told them I was going to be right there, and I was going to keep coming back. And, I saw a few of them laugh, and a few of them kind of looked like, oh, no. But I'm excited that when I come back this time, I'm not going to be coming back with alone or just a few, but with literally hundreds of people. That is amazing to me. And we did that. We accomplished that. All of us out here who are coming, we are doing that. So just so exciting. Hi, Wire Team. We love you. Can't wait to see you out there. Anu, thanks for going to Washington. Dell, thanks for going to Colorado. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., thank you for being in Washington and speaking. You did amazing. Everybody, Tony Park, everybody, you all just did a phenomenal job. Brian Hooker, I love you, my friend. And I'm going to try to find a way to get some money up to be at Autism One. I need to see my buddy Anu anyway. So I got to find a good way. I'm already trying to make enough money to survive. I wanted to go every year, and I feel like Anu is right. This is just the year I want to go and be able to be a part of it, and finally get to hear all the speakers and see all my fellow autism parents and hug their necks and just have fellowship. So anyway, I love you guys. Next week I will have Jennifer Olivia Oliveras on the show, and her daughter has severe autism as well, and they were literally kicked out of a Bagels Galore. So, I mean, can you believe that? Her daughter, Angelina, beautiful little girl, and she was making sounds, as all of our children with autism do, and the person behind the counter was just horrific to the family. So tune in next week to hear her story, vaccine injury, and what happened, and all of that stuff. I mean, just insane. This world is just a crazy, crazy place, and while we are out here, we really do have to, seems like, teach people how to behave around our children. We've got to, like, retrain society how to understand our kids, because our children don't deserve to be treated badly because they don't understand or because they can't control. I mean, it's something as simple as a sound that they've made or a high-pitched squeal or whatever. I mean, my daughter does those kind of things all the time. And I can't imagine somebody coming up to me and being rude to me over it, honestly. You know, I like to think I would still lead with love and try to be as calm as a person as I could, but that's a very hurtful thing. I mean, I feel like if you explained it once, as she did, and they were, they actually asked her to leave. I think that would be when the mama bear in me would probably rear the fangs and you know, the claws and whatnot. But it's really insane to me. So tune in next week to hear her story, because honestly, I want to hear this full story. I'm mind blown that this happened. I know I shouldn't be, but I'm always, I guess, just saddened by how some people seriously just have no clue how to treat people, how to treat other human beings. And honestly, our children are no less. My daughter with autism enriches my life more than anything I could ever imagine. She is a beautiful soul. And yes, we have major rough days, and we're up most of the night till most of the time after the sun comes up. I don't get a lot of sleep or anything like that, but I'll tell you this, she is my sunshine. And, you know, it really, really bothers me that somebody could treat somebody like that. And I don't care what's going on. You should never treat another human being disrespectfully. So, man, this world is just a crazy place, you guys. We've got a lot of work to do. It seems like the people have been dumbed down more and more and more. Violence is more and more and more common, and people just don't think for themselves. Everybody seems to be so led by what the TV says, and you know, media is so bought and paid for, it's not funny. That is why you have people like us out here who are trying to spread the truth through the radio waves and through the podcast, because we know that you're not getting it anywhere else, and it's sad, but it's true. You have so many stories that are huge that should be being covered by media, and instead they'll cover fake measles outbreaks, and they'll blame the anti-vaxxers instead of talking about where it's really coming from, which is the vaccination. It's just like flu season. I'm sorry, but there are 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, and fall. Flu season is not a season. It's called, they bring out flu shots. Everybody gets sick with the flu. Those who didn't get vaccinated end up getting it from those who are shedding the vaccine, so it's still spreading to everybody. And it's just a big old mess until, hey, it's magical, flu shots. You know, it's not time for flu shots anymore. All of a sudden, flu season is over, and it's crazy how people don't see that. But y'all can't hear it in the background, but there on my end, I have my Freedomizer, and it just said 90 seconds, and it scared the crap out of me, in case you wonder why my voice paused. They'll tell you when you get down to like 90 seconds, 60 seconds, and 30 seconds before you go off the air, and made me jump, scared me, made my heart jump. Anyway, I love you guys. I'm looking forward to talking to Jennifer next week. You guys tune in for that. The week after that, I will be playing a replay because I will be getting ready for ASIP and leaving for that directly after. So I don't want to have to do a show that day and be distracted. So anyway, I love you guys. Tune in next week, and everybody have an amazing week. Try to lead with love and ignore the haters.